And then I started specializing training women. I thought of the hip thrust. And then over the time, I'm like, I think people are missing out on doing abduction. You know, you don't have to have the strongest glute medius to squat, but to build the upper glutes, why would we not do dynamic hip abduction for the glute medius? Even with all this research now on long length training, I think we don't have enough research.
Let's just say that they're edges, but now you have the ability to actually push the edges far, because recovery really shouldn't be a problem, because a lot of them probably aren't working. So sleep's not a problem, nutrition's not a problem, time's not a problem.
I have two different hack squats. One that's slanted more and you can only load up 3 or 4 plates per side for me, and one that's less slanted and I can load up 5 plates per side. I can do 10 reps, that's my PR on that. But if I do 1 set of 10 to failure on that hack squat machine, I'm sore for 1 set. I mean, it's going to failure on that hack squat. It's more of a breathing. You just keep going.
Yeah.
It's a breathing set, you know. And
what's up, guys? We're back with another episode of Table Talk. Today, my guest is Bret Contreras. I got a list of things that I can use as your social proof and credibility. But where I want to start is I met you, talked to you forever ago, like 2 decades ago. And
it was exactly 2 decades, 2003.
And I spent the last 3 days stalking you. And I think the way that you'd want to be introduced is you are an athlete, meathead, bodybuilder first. You know, secondly, you're a personal trainer and coach. And then third, you're a scientist. So I want to use that as the jumping off point, because everything that I've seen over you from the years supports that more than everything else. So now when we circle back in there and say, you know, you have a Ph.D., you've written 3 books, you got 50 published peer-reviewed studies, there's just more shit. NSCA, I'm trying to go without looking to see how good my memory is, right? The NSCA, CSCS with distinction, and the Glute Lab, and the inventor of, I'm putting this one last because I want to hear the rants about that one. When we first started talking, it was when you ordered a home gym. So you've had some kind of home gym Glute Lab type thing forever. And I remember talking to you when you were doing, I don't know if it was EMG or what kind of, you had like 1 million different studies testing everything in your garage. You were still a teacher, I believe, at the time. And to see where you've come over the years it's a testament to what I just said, being the athlete, then the trainer, and then the scientist, because you don't last, you know this, anybody that's been around, you don't last this long in the industry if you don't have the ability to communicate with all 3 of those sectors, right? And that was, as I was stalking everything, that was the most impressive quality that I saw listening to you on all these different podcasts, is you have a very advanced and great ability to understand the audience that you're speaking to. If it's a podcast that's only got 12 views, and I was one of the 12, or it's probably 13 now, or one that's all scientific based, or one that's all meathead based, you're right there knowing exactly who the audience is. And that's rare, man. That's not something that you see often, if ever, in this industry. So that's my compliment to you in the introduction to you, is that. Now, we can't go without saying that yes, you did invent the barbell hip thrust. I don't know of the controversy behind that. I just heard through these things that some people are trying to say that you weren't. And I'm trying to say, I was kind of like around during that time, and you're being very fucking modest about some of this stuff. Yes, you can curse on this, because what they don't know is the bullshit you had to take. That what they call today is hate, right? Whatever it was, criticism. Oh my God, it was. If people now get offended by like 4 negative comments in an Instagram thread that are like, dude had like thousands of this is bullshit, this is bullshit, this is bullshit, nonstop for years, and you just kept sticking with it. And now if you look at glute training across this board, it's become part of almost every training program in some degree or another. And it started with, and I'll let you talk more on this, like the activation type of stuff, which everybody kind of knew of, but I don't think anybody was thinking of the strength aspect. Louis was trying to tell us you need stronger ass, you need a stronger ass, or reverse hypers and all this other stuff, then your lower back gets pumped. And you can hardly drive home because the lower back's so pumped because of this. And the loaded hip thrust that you should and do have all the credit for that, I think people need to be aware that wasn't an easy road to walk for somebody at your age at the time that's new in the industry, just getting fucking blasted by, do I want to say elders in the industry? Because I want to say more advanced people in the industry, but I don't really know, thinking back, if they really were more advanced. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They thought they were, like Dooney Krieger effect. Yeah. How do you see that time period?
So you touched upon some topics I'd like to talk about. Mm-hmm. Louis kind of, if, you know, I've learned a lot by reflecting, you know, down after I invented the hip thrust. I've learned a lot about the history. For example, in the 1920s, that's how bench press came to be. They would do like a pullover and press because they didn't have benches. And you just, it wouldn't be like a total pullover. You just had to get the bar over your face, and then you'd press it. And then people would realize I'm stronger if I bridge up, kind of turn into decline. And then people would start catapulting it with their hips and catching it, the lockout. And then some guy came along and he's so flexible, kind of like modern day bench, but he would just bridge up, bridge up, bridge up, bridge up, arch, 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 and then catch the bar at lockout and then lay back down. And then that's when people realize this is ridiculous.
I kind of remember some of that because they had to change. That's when powerlifting rules started to change, where your ass had to stay on the bench.
Well, but this was before a bench came
even
around.
Before that,
but yeah. So that, but people would just do one rep of that. But you could say 1920s people did barbell glute bridges, but it was for bench press.
Yeah.
Then you see in the book Super Training, you know, don't you miss those days when everyone read the classics?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, we all the strength coaches read Super Training. Well, there's a picture from 1978 from Yuri Verkhoshansky with variations of hip thrusts. They're all single leg hip thrusts, but they'd put a kettlebell on the opposite leg and like hang from something, put their foot on like a pommel horse and then bridge up. And they talked about how that would be like specific to sprinting, because it's a horizontal vector and you've got load on the opposite hip flexor. You're doing hip extension on one side, hip flexion on the other. And then there's just little, like, you know, in 2003, before I came along, I never saw this until years later. There's a clip of Beyonce doing barbell hip thrust off of a stability ball. And she must have like a 15-pound barbell. She's just doing little pumps with her chest arch. Yeah. But I'm going, if you wanted to, you could credit those people for. Also, I have this book my cousin got me when I was 19 years old. It's called something like The Complete Guide to Button Leg Development or something like that. And they don't. They show pelvic bridges, but in the programs at the end, they say weighted pelvic bridges, but they don't say what that means. But it's kind of funny. That was in 1995. So there's you know, there's people along the way who had, I remember talking to Bert Soren. He's like, I was doing that with a band in when I was training for, he was a thrower. Yeah. And he's like, I was thinking about how I could get that horizontal vector, but I never thought of putting a barbell in my lap. But the point is, I thought of it on my own. I was watching UFC fights, Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock, you know, was, their third fight, and I didn't care who won. I just didn't want it to end so quickly. Yeah. But that's when I started thinking, why don't they? Some guys, they'll get, you know, mounted or side mounted. Or, you know, they don't try to escape. They just lay there. Why don't they try to bridge up? Why don't they try to explode up? Because I had an identical twin brother. We'd be bucking like a bronco. So I thought maybe there's an exercise that could strengthen that. Well, back then, I don't think I would have thought of this remember the T-Nation days with Cressy and Robertson and all these coaches basically talking about glute activation. And I remember getting down on the floor doing glute bridges. Like, you really feel the squeeze.
Yeah.
But I want to do, as a bodybuilder, I want to do things to fatigue. I don't want to do a set of 10 when I could do 100. I want weight. I want load.
Yeah.
So when I thought about this exercise, I thought, what is the glute bridge, the floor bridge lacking? Well, range of motion and load. So I went out to my garage, which was all your equipment.
No, I remember.
And
that.
I had the reverse hyper, I had the glute ham developer, and I put them near each other. Put my feet on the reverse hyper, my back on the glute ham developer, the rounded pad, sunk my hips down, thrust it up, put a weighted dip belt underneath me with 4 plates. And I remember just sinking down, thrusting up, and it was so awkward to get into. But I did a set of like 15, and I remember thinking, I have to stop. I feel like I'm going to pull a glute muscle, and I'd never felt that way before. And so that's when I was like, it's funny how your goals change over time. Back then, my goal was to write for T-Nation, because all the big shots wrote for T-Nation back then. So I was like, I'm going to write about this. But then I'm like, wait, what percentage of the population have a reverse hyper and a glute ham developer? And what if they split apart while you're doing it? You would fall and like crack your tailbone. So I was telling my aunt whom I was training at the time, and she's like, well, sounds like you need to invent something. So that's when I invented the scorcher, but then I partnered up with business partners. That fell through. And then it was just a long line of, basically, when the housing market collapsed, gyms went under, and so I had a gym called Lifts in Scottsdale. And that's why I was like, okay, people are all telling me, Bret, you should be writing for Men's Health. You should be the fitness expert for News Channel 3 or 10 or, I'm like, I don't even know how to do any of that. Well, and they're like, you should have a blog. And I was like, God, blogging sounds so lame. And you should be on social media. Well, that's when I thought, you know what? My whole plaza was going under. And I'm like, this would be a good time to start writing. But I need a moneymaker. If I'm going to be blogging all the time, I need something to sell. So I'm not wasting all this time. So I wrote an ebook. And that's when I was like, I need to teach people how to do this without this big clunky machine. So we had never done barbell hip thrusts from a bench. We always used this scorcher.
Yeah.
That's when I thought, we just use a bench. It didn't feel the same, but you didn't feel as much hamstring. It was less hamstring, a little more quad. But I'm like, this is great. You could do it anywhere. And, the key for me was, I remember thinking, okay, I can't just have a bar in your lap. It's got to be padded or it hurts. So I remember Googling thick bar pad for like barbell pad, and Hampton came up. Hampton sold this thick bar pad, and that was the key to being able to do heavy barbell hip thrusts. And we had people doing 405 back in the day. Now people are crazy with it, but back then it was like, women doing 225 and 315, and for high reps it was really impressive. And so that's when I started writing, I started blogging. And back then it was kind of it was a fun era while it lasted, before Facebook came up with their algorithms and everything, because you would film a YouTube video, and it was one take. We didn't edit those. It was like you'd have your mom or your girlfriend or your training partner just film. Hey, can you film this? And, it was one take. You'd be running across the gym, grabbing dumbbells and out of breath. But we'd film a YouTube video. You'd embed that YouTube video in your blog. You'd post your blog. You'd choose a thumbnail or whatever. And then you'd then copy the link, post that to Facebook and Twitter, and then send it out to your newsletter. And that was just what we did 3, 4, or 5 times a week. And you were always on your computer working on your blog. And then the world changed. You went from all of a sudden, you'd post a blog and it would get 3,000 likes and 500 shares, to now it's getting 300 likes and 50 shares. It's like divided by 10. And I was kind of the first guy to say, this is stupid. I'm annoyed. I spent all this time on Facebook, building up my popularity, and now it's stupid. And Twitter, all the people following me were scientists, and I love scientists in our field, but they discount anecdotes too much. Like, there's only so much you can learn through reading.
Yeah.
You have to be doing. And so you post something and they'll say evidence for that, as if your only evidence can be from a randomized controlled trial. Like, I can't make a claim unless I've got a meta-analysis or like a review paper summarizing 10 studies. It'll never happen. It won't exist in our field. So I was like, I'm getting bored of Twitter, bored of Facebook. My twin brother at the time was like, Bret, Instagram's the way of the future. Join Instagram. I'm like, how? You can't link. It's like Snapchat to me. It's like pictures. I don't know how I can monetize it. I'm a businessman. I'm not here to post pictures of my face. He's like, just trust me. And I did. And I went all in on Instagram, like all in. I quit YouTube. I quit Facebook. I quit Twitter. I quit blogging. I quit my newsletter and put all my cards on Instagram. And that's where I started crushing it. And I got in before the algorithm changes. And I think I'm lucky for that. I'm lucky to get in during the T-Nation era when it was everyone wrote for one main thing now. Mm-hmm. In the men's health era, where you actually, to be in men's health, you had to own a gym or have a master's degree, or people had to vouch for you. They didn't reach out to you unless you had actual expertise. But back to Louis. Louis was doing horizontal hip extension stuff. And I think it goes along with the band training. It's like this, the gear will help get you out of the hole, but you've got to lock it out. And so that's why bands and chains came into play so much, but also strengthening the lockout, strengthening the shorten position. So think about all the accessories he was doing for glutes. It was back raises, it was reverse hypers, cable pull throughs. And to me, the hip thrust is just a much more stable cable pull through, That was man, you hit so many different areas. I know, there. Sorry. It's so fast. But there's a lot of them I want to touch on, where I'll just start with when I came to the West Side. That was because I had 10 years competing before that, more linear, but I could say block, but I can also say linear, block, and conjugate's all the fucking same. It's all, semantics when you get down to it. Everything's linear, everything's block, everything's conjugated. It's just how you want to go about defining it. But I was following more Western methods, straight, strength, power, peak, that type of hypertrophy phase. And Louis had this ridiculous emphasis on glutes, which is kind of weird, not as weird as what you got. I mean, you got like kind of almost like creepy weird, but then it was like, well, I kind of see what's going on with this whole thing. And, but I remember walking in, it was like, your quads are too fucking big, and your hamstrings, they're okay, but your glutes are flat as fuck. And I'm like, well, why do you care? Why do you fucking care, for one thing? But that's when the focus he would put on the top of the reverse hyper. You shouldn't be arching, you should be flexing the glute. Well, we had a flex glute day and an arch day, so a heavy day, a light day. Glute ham raise, at the top, he'd be punching people in the ass. That needs to be contracted. Dimble deadlifts, the short type of deadlifts. We used to do kneeling squats, but there became a problem with that because the load becomes so fucking high that what are you gonna, it's not practical. Mm-hmm. And what if something goes wrong at the bottom, it's bad. That happened to me once. you unrack it, and then you do your set, and all of a sudden you're too short to rack it. What do? I was so scared. I was sitting there for like 3 minutes with the bar going, do I fall forward? It could take my head off. Do I go backwards? What if it hits my low back? Yeah. Yes. Now always set the safety pins up.
You guys are selecting Merrick for your telehealth platform needs. They have a couple different ways that they go about doing this. The first is through a self-selected experience. There's a tabletop panel, which is the full panel. That would be the panel that I personally get twice a year. That's checking everything. You name it, it's all there. The other panel is a checkup panel with a guided optimization. You're connected with a patient care coordinator, and the patient care coordinator will meet with you to determine what your needs are. Thing to be able to help optimize your health or mitigate without judgment. So the discount code again is Table Talk, Merrick Health, for all your hormone optimization and performance needs. But the scorcher, I remember talking, do you have freedom to speak about that? There's no NDA or any crap like that?
No.
I remember speaking to you about that from the jump, because you called me, we were talking about it, and I actually had one. You sent me one. And I'm looking at it and it's like, okay, the footprint's fucking too big. The shipping on this is going to be a motherfucker. Everything that ends up being true with it ends up being true. And then it was a banded thing, right? And it's, God, I had it until we came into the place. I still had it. You know, when we came into this place, then I gave it to somebody that promised that they wouldn't get rid of it. Right, because it's one of those things it's a classic. It really is, and it was in my gym for so fucking long, because I don't think you know that when you ordered that first order, I was still working out of my house in my spare bedroom, right? So when we were talking about this scorcher thing, like, you put it in my garage, like, where the fuck am I gonna, where am I gonna put it? And it had a huge footprint, but I don't want to say I was a skeptic as much as a lot of the other people were back then, because if I'm to give myself any credit, the one credit I had is I knew I didn't know a whole lot, but I also knew that there were these three, and we'll talk about this more, there were these different cliques in online. It's like, here's the strength. Actually, here's like the powerlifting strength clique, and that's different than the strength coach strength clique. Vastly different. Yes. And then that's different than the personal trainer clique. And then that's different than the writer clique. And I'm working as a personal trainer, I'm a powerlifter, and I'm doing seminar for strength coaches, and it's the weirdest fucking thing. You know what I'm talking about. It's like, these people hate these people hate these people. The powerlifters hate the strength coaches because they're not fucking strong. The strength coaches think the powerlifters are only strong because of drugs. Meanwhile, and I got clients that can't squat the bar. And I'm like, I'm trying to figure this all out. And then I realized real quick, as a powerlifter, I don't know how to train a mom, just gen pop. And I've told this story before, you'll get a kick out of this. My first real client that I had that was not in a hardcore strength gym, because before that it was bodybuilding gym, stuff like that. And back then the 45-pound plates always stayed on the bar. I mean, if they were off the bar, it's like, this place sucks, you're not going to train here. And my first client, I threw a plate on each side and took it out. I could tell right away, like, this does not look good. So I'm like holding really, really close. And I had to pull it off of them. And I wasn't that dick that makes them do a force rep for a minute. And I went home and told my wife, I'm like, I don't know what I got myself into. Like, this fucking guy could not bench one. It totally threw me for such a loop, because my whole entire life, I mean, that's like set one. And so that was when I had to start attending conferences and clinics that personal trainers were doing. Then I'm listening to there, and it's like Animal House, like fucker, the devil and the, and I'm like, that's bullshit. And I'm like, but is it bullshit? But can it help my client? And the world, it was crazy at that time, because the worlds are so vastly different. But getting back to the scorcher, because I'm bouncing all over the place, one leg at a time, that thing was the shit. It really was. My problem was being 300 pounds at the time, getting under the band was a motherfucker. But it's like, okay, I don't need to get under the band because I suck at this so bad. Just do one leg, put one leg up in the air, there it goes.
And it had handles. Did mine have handles back then?
I don't know if it had handles back then. Where were the handles?
Gunnar Peterson told me to put handles on it.
Where were the handles at?
It was right attached to the rounded pad.
Yeah, that would have helped.
Yeah, I don't think you had one.
No.
Yeah, Gunnar Peterson, I gave him one. And it was funny because I remember
a big ass pad.
He was like, Bret, I hope he doesn't care if I say this now, but he texted me like, this is J-Lo's favorite exercise. And that was in 2006 or late 2006 or early 2007. I went, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, because Jayla was huge back then, and he's like, but this thing needs handles on it. So I'm like, it does, especially for single leg. You're so stable. Yeah, that would have helped you a lot.
Oh yeah, and it had a wide base, so I'm all about that.
Yeah.
You know, sumo deadlifters.
I think that's what I think I copied the rounded pad from the glute ham developed with a wide base, because I had the sumo 45-degree hyper and everything, and I like the wide option too.
Yeah.
So.
Now to jump back in where you were.
Back then it would have never sold. No. You have to learn.
Yeah.
You have to learn as a writer, you have to learn as an entrepreneur, you have to learn as someone selling strength training equipment what sells. And I was a rookie with everything. I had to learn a lot along the years.
Yeah. And not only that, it's the footprint alone was creating the issues. And I remember pieces of the conversation because it was a long time ago, but then it was, you're also fighting the culture that doesn't like this to begin with. So now you got two big strikes against it. Then a price point that you kind of need that culture to buy from. But what you were saying about content at the time is there was T-Nation, there's Elite FTS. I mean, there were places that had articles, and I was under contract for T-Nation for a long time. And they content was vetted, right? And it was, I have to think back, I'm trying to think of sometimes if, some people slip through that maybe were posers or fake, but I'm sure they did. But for the most part, because there were editorial, there were people vetting the content.
Yep.
And when things went online, I think it got a little bit better than magazines, because the magazines, you didn't know if those people were actually writing it or not, right? It could have just been the editor, or there were writers that would write under other people's name.
Right.
Online, it became the author was most of the time the real author. I can't think of very many times unless it was, because even TC wrote for himself, so he wasn't writing other people's shit. They would edit things, which to me, that was why I went. It's because I couldn't write for shit. And I remember him saying, I don't care if you can write it on a napkin and send it to me. I'm cool with that. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Somebody can edit this crap and then put it out. And then when Facebook came, it became a way for us to put our articles out and have traffic and to pull traffic back in. And then, but even then, for me, that was weird, because I didn't want to put a lot of time into that, because my whole goal was to get people on my site, which is the embedded YouTube's where I'm going here. It's like, so the longest time for us, all YouTube was a way to control the bandwidth on our own site, so we didn't have to pay for it. So it was just the embedded file to stick into the WordPress or whatever you were using, and then send it out with giving no fucks at all on YouTube. And I fell behind the curve on that, because it's like, I don't care. Sometimes I even wonder, like, I really don't fucking care, because the goal is to be on the site. Yep. Because that's where the products are. And I remember people giving me advice back then, like, man, you have to have like a big banner on your website, sending people to your YouTube page. I'm like, you're fucking out of your mind, man. And maybe they were right to a degree, But
that's the hard thing. You and I are businessmen. We care about profit. So it was always like, okay, like, you have metrics, but the one metric is, what's your profit? Sales and profit. But then there's these other metrics, like back when blogs were popular, I cared so much about my Alexa ranking, because I had a higher, now who cares, but I had a higher ranking blog than everyone. And you cared about followers and you cared about this, but it was really profit. And then you start realizing that you can become too. So I know some of the guys now who have the most followers on Instagram. They're so obsessed with making a reel a day, they have not created the platforms like I have with Booty by Bret. It takes a while to get those established.
Yes.
Your strength training equipment, how long did that take you to perfect?
Oh God. I mean, we've been in business 25 years, and the business model I've always used, and not communicated very well is now it's easy to communicate because everybody knows who the fuck Alex Jones and InfoWars is, or just follow me for a minute, right? Where he uses his products to pay for the content so the content can be free. All I've ever wanted to do was to put the content out for free, to live, learn, pass on. But people live under this misconception that content just is free to produce, which, and anybody who produces content know that that's a fucking lie. You got to produce it. Then there's your hours put into it. You got to host it. There's all these other, it costs money to create the content. And then the products would pay for the content, kind of spooled that way. And then trying to find the balance, like if all you do is that, and then it's not creating any profit, then you can't do that, and it's,
that's what some of these guys who have, 4 million followers on Instagram, but they get paid through sponsorships and their revenue. They're like I think Instagram just stopped monetizing the reels and stuff, but like they might make $1 million a year, but when they have 4 million followers, you think they'd be making more than that. You think they'd be, I'm not saying $1 million a year isn't a lot, but I'm saying is that you think they'd be, but they're too obsessed with their numbers. It's really hard to come up with a reel or a TikTok a day. You have to be at it every day and filming, and it's tough, but they're obsessed with the followers and coming up with and so they don't take the time to create the platforms that make money. If you stumble upon Bret Contreras, you want a book about glute training? Okay, here's Glute Lab. You want a program? Here's Booty by Bret. You want some equipment, some home glute training equipment? BC Strength. And it takes a long time to set those up. And I think a lot of people don't take the time anymore because you get caught up in now social media is so different. But back to circle back to what you were saying, putting the content out online. I remember when I first started personal training, it's like I was so influenced by Louis. I read every article you wrote, every article Louis, Jim Wendler, and all the guys. I respected the guys who had gyms and trained people. So like even Zach Evanesh, Jason Ferrugia, Joe DeFranco, those were my people because I owned a garage gym and I had that equipment. I had the specialty bars, I had the chains, the bands, the 45-degree hyper, the glute ham developer, the reverse hyper, the sled. Like I remember this website, deepsquatter.com or something. I read every article. I'm like, man, why does Louis do so many good mornings?
Yeah.
But, do they really do that? But I followed, I was influenced by Westside very much. So I was influenced by all you guys. To me, it was like, these guys are more successful than me. They've been doing it longer. I'm going to copy them until I know enough to tweak it. And then I started specializing training women. I thought up the hip thrust. And then over the time, I'm like, I think people are missing out on doing abduction. You don't have to have the strongest glute medius to squat. But to build the upper glutes, why would we not do dynamic hip abduction for the glute medius? So I started doing more of that, more cables, more bands, more machines, and it's just then I come up with this rule of thirds. Like a third of your glute training should be vertical hip extension exercise, squats, deadlifts, lunges. A third should be horizontal because they're not as hard on the body and they strengthen different ranges. The vertical strengthens the stretch, the horizontal strengthens the lockout. That's all the stuff Louis was doing, interestingly for the glutes. But I just added hip thrusts and glute bridges and single leg hip thrusts and stuff like that to it. And then finally another third should be lateral, which was kind of we always talk, like strength coaches, physical therapists talked about the glute medius, but they didn't make it a central part of their programming. You just thought the glute medius gets developed by doing single leg movements, but in any stabilizing role, it just fires just enough to stabilize, not maximally. So that's when I started with your guys' system, and I liked like Joe DeFranco, he'd tweak things for athletes. And I'd use Westside and all those methods. And I still love bands. Even with all this research now on long length training, I think we don't have enough research. It's like, I can do hack squats. I have two different hack squats. One that's slanted more and you can only load up 3 or 4 plates per side for me. And one that's less slanted. and I can load up 5 plates per side, I can do 10 reps. That's my PR on that. But if I do 1 set of 10 to failure on that hack squat machine, I'm sore for 1 set. I mean, it's going to failure on that hack squat. It's more of a breathing. You can just keep going.
Yeah.
It's a breathing set, you know. And so I'm sore off 1 set for 3-4 full days, and I can't train productively again. But I can, if I put a trap bar underneath the platform and attach bands at the same time, I can put like the monster band and like maybe one other band, and it looks easy when you film it. It looks like it's not that hard, but it's brutal. I can do 10 reps with that. So 10 reps of just having those, a big band and a smaller band is equal to 450 in terms of effort. But the plate loaded hits the bottom for the stretch portion, whereas the bands are easier at the bottom, harder at the top. They don't produce the soreness. I can do 3 sets and not be as sore as 1 set. And people don't talk about that enough. You know, the soreness that all the full range training, you can add in a lot more volume using bands and chains, or just exercise that hit the lockout too. And we've always done that. Bodybuilders have always done that for biceps. They would include, you know, a preacher curl or an incline curl. They do a regular barbell curl, an easy bar curl, maybe a hammer curl, but they'd always throw in a concentration curl or something where they work their shortened position for the squeeze. But now with the research, all this evidence supporting long length training, people are going, they just take it too far. They act like that's all you should be doing, and now you just don't do any. Everything should just be long length.
There's more mechanisms at work, and you know this far more than I do. And with, say, the example that you gave, as you're saying that, I'm trying to like figure out, you know, in my brain, you know, why. And usually the first thing that's going to come to my mind is not going to be the first thing that's going to come to somebody else's mind, because I'm a meathead background. I'm thinking pressure. You know, I'm like, okay, when you do a hack squat and you got that weight loaded all the way at the bottom, you have tremendous amount of pressure at the bottom, abdominal pressure, blood pressure, head pressure.
Right.
Now you reduce that a little bit. Now it doesn't become so much of a breathing thing at the 6 to 8. Outside of the force curve that, you know what I'm saying? We're just talking breathing and pressure right now, where, you know, that blood pressure plays a role in there, or just overall, I don't know if it would be systemic pressure. I don't know what it would be. If you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about.
That could influence, like, well, we call it CNS fatigue.
Yes.
But think about all the exercises that beat the crap out of you. There's a couple studies indicating that it's not really CNS fatigue, it's muscle damage. But anyone who lifts heavy knows, you go and do deadlifts, all the lifts that require that intra-abdominal pressure, and the whole, you know, you just know it. When it's so hard at the bottom, you're like, you know, that stuff, I think, is what takes it out of you so much. You got to limit it. You got to limit it to a couple of days a week, or just limit the volume. You can't get all your volume from that.
Today's episode is brought to you by elitefts.com. Founded in 1998 with the primary aim to live, learn, and pass on. Please help Elite FTS support this mission by smashing the like button, leaving a comment, sharing with a friend, and thinking of us for your training needs. If you can put it in a gym bag or load weights on it, Elite FTS has it.
What's going on? I'm Dave Tate. We are broadcasting from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room, where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. I want to take that and go back to your rule of thirds, because I just listened to a video you talking about this, and it stretches. The concept stretches to all body parts, as far as I'm concerned. Is when you're talking about the rule of thirds and breaking it into those 3 things, the topic of volume is going to come up, and then workload. I like to distinguish how I define these first off. To me, volume is just sets times reps, where workload is sets times reps times weight, because they are two different, and they get convoluted, especially between bodybuilding and powerlifting. And intensity is another one. Like, it means one thing in the strength and conditioning world and something else in the bodybuilding world, where when you're dealing with certain the glute movements that you're talking about, some of them, the workload I assume is going to have to be heavier. The weights needs to be heavier, and the reps are probably going to be a little bit lower, where other ones is going to be more mind muscle type contraction type thing. Usually those movements aren't, I don't think they're created equal, and they're usually not the same.
Right.
So how would you take the rule of thirds for the glute to then expand with that a little bit?
Well, okay, so let's think of pecs. Well, maybe a third of your volume should be things that stretch the pecs deep, like compound movements. But then another third should be ones that focus on the squeeze, cable crossovers, pec deck. They're not going to get, pec deck can get you sore if you haven't done it in a while. But if you do them all the time, it doesn't get you as sore as the things that stretch you a lot. And then a third would be more isolation, like you're just, kind of like mind the angles. You know what I mean? Like, don't just do everything flat. Do things, you got an incline, flat, and decline vector, and you can do isolation and compound movements from that. But that's kind of how I take of it. Like, even with delts, like sometimes use dumbbells and they hit you at the top, but everyone thinks, because theoretically, you take a dumbbell, there's no torque at the bottom, zero. The dumbbell's right under the shoulder joint. There's no moment arm. Then you raise it all the way out to the side, and that's where the moment arm is maximized. So people will say this only trains you in the short length. But when you're doing lateral raises, you come to the top. When you've got a 40 or 50 pound dumbbell and you've got a long arm like me, now you're coming down. That's a huge, you're trying to slow it down. You feel it all the way until it comes down to the bottom when you reverse it. I do think you're getting tension in the stretch on the way down, trying to control the momentum. So I disagree that it's like all or nothing. And then, so people will say like dumbbells are just a shortened movement for the delts. Whereas like dumbbell side raises, dumbbell laterals, whereas using a cable column is more the stretch. But the way people do cables for delt raises, they'll have it at an angle. If you really want all the tension and stretch, then you would need the cable column set up at the height of your hand, perpendicular, so horizontal, so it's all in stretch. But then as you come up, the light of the cable would come up and you'd have zero tension in the shortened position. So what people typically do is they have it a little lower, and it's, if you mapped it out, it's not all or nothing. But the point is, with delts, do your compound exercises. Those are going to be your meat and potatoes for delts. Do some type of pressing movements. Then you have your delt raises, front, side, and rear. But just use dumbbells and use cables and machines. Because sometimes if all you do is dumbbells, man, and you're trying progressive overload, you get to a point where you're like, I'm not going to try and do 50 pounds to beat 10 reps. So then switch to cables for a while, or one day a week do dumbbells, one day cables, or just use machines, or if you have a partner, you can use the lateral raise machines, have your partner push down on the eccentric to get an enhanced eccentric there. But just the variety is good. People get too caught up in this is best, but they think of which exercise is best, but think about what's the best program. It makes me think about everyone can make a better burger than McDonald's, but no one can make a better business. It's like, okay, cool. Whatever exercise you think is best for glutes, whether it's squats or hip thrusts or whatever, but what about the whole system? So these guys who bash hip thrusts, and I'm like, all right, show me your program. The guys who bash exercises in general, okay, you've never shown me a workout, because I've written so many damn programs in my life, I can glance at some and go, that's not optimal. So you're bashing hip thrusts, so what's your glute training program? You have them do squats, RDLs, and lunges twice a week, 3 times a week? That's probably overkill. You can't do heavy walking lunges and squats and RDLs 3 times a week. But my clients can train 3 times a week because we're doing a lot. Like West Side, you guys would do reverse hypers a lot. You guys would do, glutes a lot, supplementary, because you're doing your heavy work with the squats and deadlifts. But even then, you're using a lot of bands and chain tension. But my point is, show me a better system, because you can bash this exercise, but it adds volume. It provides, like the abduction work hits the glute medius. And, you have different subdivisions of the muscles. So I just think people don't think of the total program. Like there's all these people bashing exercise in the last 2 years. You've seen them, they bash the pull over, the straight arm pull down, the don't do this exercise is stupid. But when I do straight arm pull downs, a lot of times that's the best pump I get in my lats. So it's like, it has to do something. I've read the studies. I read the studies when they came out with EMG, but that's why I like considering everything. You don't just go by one thing. You go by functional anatomy. You go by, you consider EMG, because we don't have training studies on everything. So you get a pump from it? Are you sore the next day? Where are you sore? You should consider all these things. And it's kind of, I don't like the way that social media's gone, where you get rewarded for these bold statements, because you and I could make the boldest statements of all, if we wanted to. Or who do you think would be better at pseudoscience? These jokers or an actual scientist? If I wanted to...
Oh, an actual scientist, if they can build the confidence to pull it off.
Well, not if they turn to the dark side.
I mean, that, right? I mean, but the tonality and how they pitch it is a huge part.
I know.
And
but I see what they do, and I go, I could make a post. Who do you think could bash the hip thrust more than anyone? Me.
You should be able to, right?
Yeah. Who do you think could praise the hip thrust better than anyone? Me. Who do you think could bash the squat? I mean, think about coming out with a here's why the squat will always be king of all exercises, and you make a post on that. And, you can talk about Tom Platz, you can talk about all these things, but then you could also make a post saying, here's why the squat is the single most overrated movement of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And, why would you... if you're trying to build your quads, why wouldn't you be supported? Be in a leg press, the pendulum squat, a hack squat, something where you're supported, where the quads actually give out first, and it's not a balancing issue or something. See what I'm saying? You can just make up whatever you want, and then it gets tons of likes because...
Well, sometimes I wonder if... if they know enough, two things. If they know enough to do that, and if they've, I don't want to throw age into it, but if they're old enough and have the wisdom enough to know to do that, because I have biases, you have biases. I can lay my biases out right now, but I can also debate against myself better than almost anybody else can debate against me on my own biases. Now, you might be able to point out other things I don't know, and I'm like, cool, that's even more shit to debate against my own bias. But if you're to make, at least in the world that I came up in, if you were to make a bold, which I tried to never do, a bold assumption, like this is the only way, right? Then you were going to get pushback from that, right? And so I always try to avoid that, because if the pushback came from you, or if it came from somebody else that's on the science side, I'm fucked. So I'm not going to do, I have to be able to fall back on, look, man, I'm just a fucking meathead, been lifting weights for 40 fucking years doing this, and this, tell me what you're thinking.
But what you talk about is so critical. There were consequences back then.
Yes.
We had if you, like think of Joel Seedman with his 90 degrees, that 15 years ago, you would have Googled him and everything that came up would have been like, this guy's not to be taken seriously. Or say you copied from people, you would get exposed. Yes. You'd Google the person's name, and the first things that would come up would be, YouTube videos and articles and Reddit and things exposing them as this person's a fraud. So you wouldn't do it. We had a checks and balances system. We had a policing, even on Facebook. We all cared about what each other thought, and it's shifted so far from that. Now, you should... If you just want money, you should... Okay, I'm going to think of an example. I do a year of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, just enough to know, and then I start calling myself a black belt. What if people question where I got my black belt, I don't have to tell anyone. I can just delete their comment. And so, but what I do is I go to all the top 10 jiu-jitsu people and I watch their moves and I just copy what they say verbatim. I like just do it in my own, here I'm here to teach you guys this. And then you just copy their material, but they're actually training jiu-jitsu and they're teaching it. They have jiu-jitsu academies and you don't have to do that. You have all day long to make reels. You do not have to be a practitioner anymore. In fact, it works against you because every hour you spend working with someone could be an hour you spent on social media. And to rise up in social media, if you have it to where you spend 10 hours a day making reels and editing and working on that, that's how you get popular these days. You have to have the time and put in the manpower, and being an actual practitioner works against you because whatever they put out, you can just copy them. There's no consequence. And if I copied you and you exposed, if you said, hey, this Bret Contreras guy, I used to like him, but he's turned into a copycat. Here he is stealing a few of my things. I could just come on and be like, oh my God, talk about scarcity mentality. Dave Tate thinks he owns a copyright on box squats. You learned it from Louis, Dave, and I'm just passing on. I didn't know you wanted credit for it would make you look so bad. Yeah. So you don't say anything. No one says anything. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's
no checks and balances system anymore. And scientists like myself, Brad Schoenfeld, Alan Aragon, our wings are clipped because what do you think gets more likes, views? With these entertainment algorithms, what's more entertaining? Carbs are the single cause of the obesity epidemic, or someone being more rational about it, or hip thrusts are the worst exercise in existence versus here's why you should hip thrust. Like polarizing topics are way more entertaining. Pseudoscience is more entertaining than regular science. Fake news is more entertaining than real news. It's become a problem.
I like to look at these things more through a macro lens than a micro lens, because that could be the same as I can sit here and say, fall off my diet, right? And I'm not on a diet, but go back to eating like a fucking slob like I used to always do and get really bloated in the next 2 weeks and say I weigh 30 pounds more. Uh-huh. I'm not 30 pounds fatter. That's completely different than if I gain 30 pounds over 10 years, right? So the way that you're explaining it is kind of like, here's this micro view. Instead of looking at a decade of work, we're going to look at a year of work, where the people that you're talking about a year from now may not even be here. So they may get millions of views, but what are the total number of views that they have over a decade, right? The person that's going to have the smaller amount of views, say 3,000 or 4,000 over the period of the decade, if they last the whole decade, will have more views and they'll have more followers and ultimately more customers of whatever they're trying to sell, right? Because what matters isn't the followers. What matters are the people that will convert from a business side. If all you're looking at is notoriety and fame, well, you're going to be a flash in the pan anyhow. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah, think about 10 people from 10, 15, who's still very popular from 10 years ago.
The credible ones. Think about it. I mean, the ones that are still around, right, are the ones that have figured out, as yourself, how to communicate with all the voices, in the different spheres, and have not lived on blunt, bold statements that are all bullshit, have been willing to say, maybe I was wrong on that, or actually not maybe, I was wrong on that. My delivery was not right? And maybe it's a little bit easier for me coming up because the internet, as far as content, was kind of like a new thing.
Yeah.
So I'm writing articles and I'm putting stuff out there, trying to use a voice of somebody that's never written before, trying to take cues that I've always learned in the gym. Arch, and then write that in words and then find out 10 years later, that's not really what I meant. What I meant was a tight, neutral spine, but that's what I
still use all those cues.
Yeah, I know, but you see what I'm saying though.
Knees out, and then those got
They get crushed, right? And so for me though, I'd look at it.
But it works.
Yeah. So if I'm telling a 200
chest up, knees out,
yes,
sit back. I know all that.
Yeah. So if I'm telling a 275 pound power lifter, chest up, arch,
he's not going to hyperextend. He's just going to get to neutral, right?
But now if I'm doing a seminar, and I got somebody that's 6'5", 160 pounds, then they do that. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Well, I'm doing what you wrote. Yeah. I'm like, oh shit. My deliveries, you see, that guy that I was helping can't do that because he's got 2 liters for erectors. Yep. You know, so he's got a tight back. Yeah. And I guess there's some inherent built-in excuses to where it's like, look, we didn't figure out how this could effectively be communicated, but it does still kind of piss me off though, because if I make a video and I'm showing somebody, I'm trying to work with somebody's squat to clean their technique up to squat more weight. I got to fucking say in the video, look, I may give cues that may be wrong, but it's going to get this person to do what I want them to do. You know, so I
read something I read a comment on some page, and it hit home. It was like, for the first time in, history, little children are at the same table as adults, and like people with zero experience are at the same table with the top scientists in the comments section, and there's no way of filtering them out. It's like it's like this. You have 40 years of experience as a trainer, and you make a comment, and you have someone who literally just formed an account with a fake name, who lives in his parents' basement, attacking you for it, and it's just something that we didn't used to. We used to have respect. It's not there anymore. The world's changing a little bit. So you have to, some of the criticisms are good, but so much of it is just hate and like bashing of people. And I think it drives a lot of legit, especially scientific people that are like, why the hell would I waste my time on this platform? This is disrespectful. It's not a good use of my time.
It does, but my advice to them would be, it shouldn't, because the children won't be at the table in a couple of years. They don't have the attention span, for one thing. The ones that do have the attention span aren't going to be saying the same things at the table in a couple of years. Right. So, but we grew up at a different time. I mean, where you grew up at a time where your criticism you were getting was profound, and it was across different message boards, and people would send you the link. You'd be like, motherfucker, what are you going to do with this? And I'm getting bashed for West Side left and right all over the place. So I'm calloused, so if I see a negative YouTube comment, it means I like it. Like, thank you. It's engagement. Fucking say more. The more you can say, the better it is. But the one thing that I've seen that, as I think more on this as you're talking, what used to happen is if the criticism, because it would kind of peak, like it would start and then it would almost get to a point where it's like, okay, this is too far. And then right about then, other people would come in.
No, it's so true.
And say, dude, that's fucked up.
Or like your followers all see it and they're praising you, and then they start sharing it. Now people who don't follow you look at it, they see it on someone's story, and they're like, I'm going to click on that. They don't know you. Then you're like, oh, people are loving this. And then all of a sudden you're getting attacked left and right. And then you get attacked too much, and then people come into your defense. When you have a really popular post like that, it does follow a wave of, it's a predictable pattern. Yeah. It's really interesting.
And it's well, I guess my main point is, if people look at it over a decade, right? Because the reason I got into this industry is, A, there was nothing else I wanted to do. I love this stuff. I mean, I actually just loved this shit. And B, I didn't know if I could be good at anything else. So they kind of corresponded with each other, where it wasn't about what could I do to make millions of dollars. It's like, what can I do so I can just train all the time and just be around this all my life? I don't care if I don't make all the money in the world. I just want to be around this until I die. So it was always a longevity game. Like, how can I do that? How can I make that play? Now, some people get in the industry just for money, right? And it's probably a shitty industry to do that with, to be honest. There's other places you can make better money, faster. Real estate investment. There's other places,
right.
Insurance. There's other places to go if that's the main goal. I would highly suggest they do that, and the ones that are coming in, because we've seen them for 30 years, the ones that come in and try to do that, I can say never do it. It's in the 0.0001%.
It's so funny. Did you ever have the job where you worked in a cubicle when you were like 16 or anything?
No, it was always like warehousing type stuff.
Well, like I remember I did cold calls, like calling people up who,
I did, I worked for a Bally's where I had to do sales and I was doing that. That was terrible.
And so for you to get to come to here every day, like, look at this.
Yeah.
We made it. Like, I have my gym now, and my day involves going there but I can choose my own hours. I can choose my clients. If I don't like someone, I don't need to train them. It's such a good life, and it stems from the passion. But that's something I sometimes have to remind myself, like, you have such a good life.
Yeah. Well, you always had to pivot though too, because when we go back, it was blogging, it was articles. I mean, that's what the driver was, it was that. And then all of a sudden, Facebook kind of killed that. I mean, it helped it because it would pull traffic into it. But as a publisher, what that became was, now my authors could just post on their own Facebook page.
Yep.
Why do they need to post on and send me an article? They can just do it there and have the engagement, and it's closer to their home.
Yep.
So so that. And it probably hurt T-Nation. It probably hurt other publishers too, because why come to our site? Then Instagram killed my training logs. Like, why come to the training log if you can just go to the Instagram?
Yeah.
The coaching logs, kind of got evaporated because of when microblogging was a thing on Instagram too. So we had to pivot from the blogs, and articles still are popular. I mean, they still drive traffic, so it's not huge like the other stuff, but it still matters. And onto Facebook, then it was like, okay, this isn't what it's supposed to do. The metrics are not showing, so got to move somewhere else. So it's whatever that next move is. After a while, I don't like to. I mean, I'm fucking old. I'm 55, and I'm kind of sick of it, But after a while, you got to figure out, like, where's the next one. And when there's fucking 70 you got to look at, you can't do all of them. I don't care what Gary Vee says. You can't do them all. Yeah. So it's like, fuck, where's it going to be? But it's going to be somewhere else.
It's coming.
Because you already had to do it.
Right.
A couple of times
before. That's what
before.
I'm so mad at. I told you how I was like one of the early adopters of Instagram, and it made my, and TikTok comes around, and I'm like, I don't know about this. Why didn't I jump on TikTok? And then by the time I went to TikTok, I feel like I lost that weight. I lost the ability to get it on the ground floor. Plus, I don't like the platform that much. Yeah. But something else
becomes different though the longer you're around though, because now, before for me, before the metrics were the most important metrics were different than they are now. Like, the most important metrics, when I was starting, is just traffic overall, like Alexa, stuff like that. Yeah. What is the overall traffic? Now it's traffic, but also demographic, because there's a certain I don't want to say there's a certain demographic that's too young, because I did fuck that up. I mean, there was a long time where, and I still feel this way, the content that I'd always put out is for people that put training as one of their top 4 priorities. If it falls under that, you got men's health, you got a lot of other places to go. That's not what I do. That's not what it is. And it limits your scope a lot, right? Because it's a giant mass that's there. That's the fitness industry, which I tried to stay as far away from as I could and stay in this niche industry, because of there's more bullshit, I thought, associated with that. But where I screwed up is I put all my focus in the demographic that would be the customer, but forgot that the younger demographic will become the next customer, right? But I also realized that there's always a demographic still isn't in that transition yet. I'm not going to spend my time there. And for a while, to me, that's how I saw TikTok. Like, this demographic it's not old enough, just biologically, not old enough to be in this conversion phase yet. Now, that may have changed, and now the problem is you don't know what's real and what's not when you look at the demographics. Before, we kind of knew. Now it's like, oh, the 55-year-olds are all over TikTok. I'm like, I don't fucking think so, dude.
I know, are they?
I don't. That's where my frustration is I don't know if I can trust the analytics. And I saw that get really fucked up with Meta over the past few years as well. It's like, you're trying to trust these analytics for ad spends and stuff like this. And then, long story short, the Elite FTS Facebook page just gets whacked. It gets hacked, right? So try to get customer support by Facebook sometime. So like it's ridiculous. And I'm spending money. I'm buying ads, right? And so I still don't have it back, right? So it's like over a year. So I went all the way through a whole holiday season. Sales didn't drop. I mean, now wait a minute. I'm spending thousands on ads every month, and I didn't see a drop in sales. I don't have a Facebook presence. So what the hell what were the metrics that I'm seeing that's showing that I have this positive ROI when my real metrics?
So that's okay. that brings up a whole other topic. Like, with these platforms, especially Meta, like how would you know if they're just lying? You can't subpoena this information. How would you ever know if they're just, if it really does go out to the amount of people they say it does, or if it gets, because I've seen my own BC Strength ads 10 times each. You're not supposed to go out to the same person over and over and over and over and over and over. Mm-hmm. You would never know how, and it's funny. I have a lawyer that I hired, and I'm forming a nonprofit organization. I'm in the middle of doing it. And I'm like, why do I have to do this? But no one's doing it. And I'm going to call it something like fairness, fair platforms initiative or something like this, where we have to have some regulatory body, because every industry has one except social media. They could shadow ban you without giving you a right to appeal. Like, they say they don't shadow ban, but you can see it. I have got clients, you type in their name, nothing comes up. They're shadow banned, and like one of them's Persian. She probably posted something like in support of, like, during these hard times where people are being killed for speaking out, and somehow it registers on their page that it gets flagged. But if they had workers that you could appeal it to, they would quickly realize, no, this person didn't do anything wrong. But you can't, like you just said, there's no customer service. Yeah. And they're, I haven't gone up in followers really in 2 years. I was killing it. And so you could say, well, Bret, you're old, you lost your touch. But I see people make similar, they take my work. If you're some 22-year-old really good-looking dude that just copies my work, that might get 20 million views.
The glute training popularity has never been higher than it is now. So I would say,
and I invented the whole niche. Yeah, I created the niche, and it took me over a decade to make that niche legitimate. And then now it's very frustrating, because it's like, it rattles your confidence. It affects your business. It's like, why am I not? And it also decreases your motivation to post. It's like, when I was killing it every day, I'm posting every day, but I have clients. My one client, Urishna, she's a wellness competitor. She goes up 100,000 followers a month. Everything she does is gold. She looks amazing. I realize I'm not an ugly guy, but I'm not a Greek god. It just kind of sucks, because it used to be when it was just before the algorithms, it was just chronological order. I miss those days, because scientists could squash pseudoscience easier. Now we have more misinformation, and it's harming. For the first time, people are scoring lower on intelligence tests for the first time ever. We're actually scoring lower because people are just glued to their phones, getting fake news and losing their critical thinking skills. We're having the young population is getting shown. It's like an addiction, you know. Well, I could look at my Explorer page, and half the time it's like all these bodies, these amazing bodies. Like, am I click? I'm clearly, it's catering to me, but all these amazing physiques, men and women. It's like it can mess with your self-esteem a little bit. It can give you body dysmorphia, and these younger, you know, the teenage populations are more depressed than they've ever been, and it's creating problems that way. It's creating harm for businesses when you could be doing everything right, but there could just be people up there who say, I like this guy, I'm going to push a button and they're on the fast track to success. Or I don't like this guy and they're not going to grow no matter what they do. What if that existed? How would we know? So it sucks because how would you provide evidence of this? They don't have to publish their algorithms. They don't have to do anything. They could be discriminating in some fashion against age, against race, against religion, against somehow you'd never know it. And at the scary level, they can influence elections and things like that. And so, to me, it's just a no-brainer. You don't want to ever wait till it's too late. If history tells us one thing, when you have too much power, it gets abused. And so, I would love to just see some sort of regulatory body keeping them honest. It's like, first of all, what you described, how you can't get a hold of customer service. You guys make billions and billions of dollars profit.
Oh yeah.
Hire some customer service people. You don't get to have your account hacked and then you can't get a hold of someone for a year. That's such poor customer service.
Or give me a competitor that I can go to, right? So it's, I mean, that's kind of what's lacking there, and that's. There's two ways that I look at this. Is the rabbit hole way, which just gets me mad and pissed off because I'm older. Then there's the other way, like I can't do shit about any of this. Now, if you do something like that, then yeah, I can help do something there. But since I can't do shit about this, I still have to find a way to acquire customers, right? So I can only be upset about this for like 5 minutes because I still got this other shit. Yeah, I got to find this other path, to pull people in.
My problem though. It's like that serenity prayer. I'm not a religious guy, but it's like, I'm going to butcher it, but
no, I get it.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I have changed the industry.
Yes.
I have made change. So I know what I'm capable of if I put my mind. No one has more passion and energy than I do, but it takes time away from, is it worth your time? Is it worth your effort? Yes. So I'm going to start this nonprofit organization to try to arouse support. And I just wish people had common sense. Like, why are we, you should publish your algorithms, or I wish we could just go back to chronological order. That's fair for everyone.
Then they have problems though, where people were just spamming the fuck out of it though. They make 30 posts in 1 hour just so your post ends up being in there.
Well, that's solvable.
Yeah.
I sit there and I look at all the things that we do. When you make a post and there's 10 spam comments that you got to delete.
It's like our emails now.
How can you not police that? I don't know. But anyway, I think of everything how, I don't know. I would just think that someone else would have fought this battle. Politicians, why aren't they fighting the battle? Because they could lose elections on account of these things. So I think they'd be in support of it, but I think a lot of them are just clueless about social media in general. But it is a whole different world now. And like you, I don't get the followers that I used to, but my business is still doing well. I haven't seen a drop in business, even though the last couple of years, I haven't gotten a lot of new followers, but my business is still doing well. So,
well, that's the main metric, right? Yes. Because it's, if you're looking to make an impact, and this is one of the realizations I had to come through over a period of time. If you're willing to like make an impact and to help change people's lives, who are you going to be able to change the most? The people that don't support you, or the people that do? Right. Well, obviously the people that do. So those are going to be the people that are going to be a part of your member sites, the Body or Booty by Bret or whatever. Those are those people, those are the ones that garnered the most attention and the most support. And then those people are going to refer other people. Right. And then it's personal training 101, right? If you just go back to where your clients come from. But I think our egos are so easily fed, by something that can go viral and not bring you any customers or whatever.
It's so funny you said, because before remember when you used to post about your book and there'd be all your fans were raving about it. Now they sense up, this is he's promoting his book, he's promoting his new product. It gets 300 likes, it's half of them being your family or something. Your mom,
if they see it,
right?
That's the
point. It's like they squash that right away. They know go try and promote a seminar on Instagram. It just falls dead. So back then you could, before these crazy algorithm changes, it was so much fun because people would talk about ads. I never had to make an ad. I was gaining 1,200 followers a day. 50,000 people were watching my story every day. And I'd post 50 stories. I'd repost everyone who tagged me. Not everyone, but like all my clients. And it was fun for everyone. We were all doing well. They were doing well and we were doing well. But one thing you can count on is the platforms will find a way to take more of the money into their hands and keep it away from your hands. That's what I miss about chronological order. Everyone does. I wish we could show, I wish there was a way to show that numerically. Like back then, they made X amount and the businesses made Y amount. But now it's way more skewed, in my opinion. And you could have a high follower count, but that doesn't mean you're making a lot of money, because like I said, anytime you promote your products, those don't do well.
When you annually review your business in general, do you run scenarios through your head? Like, what if I lost this channel entirely? So I call it like crisis strategy.
Yeah.
So crisis intervention. I was going to say, because you should, because I got to do that. Like, what if I lose my main manufacturer?
Yeah.
Like, what is my plan?
Right.
Because you don't want to be in that situation to where you get hit. Because normally when something like that happens, COVID was an example of that for a lot of people. It's usually not just one thing you get hit with. It's usually one thing you're like, fuck, this really sucks, but I can manage this. Then two more come. It's usually never that one. But that back strategy and I'm saying this mostly for people who are listening that have a business, because if all your eggs are in that one basket and you haven't thought through, like, what happens if this basket is just gone? You're deleted, right? I could definitely see you being shadow banned just because it's the fucking glute guy.
Yeah.
And that whole thing changed, a couple years ago or whatever it was. So then what's that strategy? Well, you were ahead of it. You got the Booty by Bret that's already there.
But it's funny what you're talking about as a business strategy. I always thought about that just over the last few years. I started when you're going up 1,200 followers a day like I was, and on top of the world, you can do no wrong. It feeds your ego. And I've always been, if you know my reputation, like I've always been the guy who stays at conferences and talks to everyone. And I try to be, like the people's champ. Like I found myself starting to say things that I didn't used to say. And I was like, man, if Instagram went down, I'm back to being, it humbles you. I was like, I need to stop, I need to go back to my roots and just be the best personal trainer I can be, good to the people around me, and do right by them and focus on that, because it can change you when you become a high level influencer. You want to collaborate with the big dogs. You want to be this, and you stop being good to the people around you. And so there's some good that came out of my slowdown of growth and everything. It humbles you and gets you back to your roots. Like,
I'd say that's more than some good. That's a lot of good. right? Because at the end of the day, when you set the phone down, you're still there.
I know.
Right? With the people who care.
Right.
The people around you care way more about you than the people that are online. They don't give a fuck about you.
Right.
You know?
But people get lost. You look at some of these people, you know, all the people passing away because they're taking too much steroids or what was that? Greg Plitt or whatever, the guy who got the train.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he had everything in the world going for him. And it's like, when you take a step back, why? You just died. It's really sad. So it causes you to think more deeply about life and what you want to be known for, what you want to be remembered by. And
this is interesting to me, though, because this just made me realize that you have to live two worlds here, because your clients are also ones that, you know, that are in the fitness bikini. They're in an industry where they're having followers is almost vital to the success of their profession. So you have to, wow, this is fucked up, right? So on one hand, you have to be like frustrated, but then not be frustrated to them so they don't get frustrated.
Well, it's funny because the other day I was talking to a client and she's like, "You're so awesome. You're like you're like my videographer too." So you know those memes that you've seen, like what people think I do versus what I really do? You'd think I'd be there, like we said earlier, like, "All right, come on, chest up, knees out, like 3 more, come on." Like a lot of times I'm filming and I have to learn my clients' angles that they have one butt cheek that's bigger than the other. They want this. They prefer for me to tap on the video and slide down to decrease the exposure. They like it a little bit darker. They like moving shots that are a little closer. One likes just a standstill shot that's far away. But I learn these things because, hell, I want them coming to me. And the more value you can provide, but it's not just about being so now if you train at Glute Lab Fort Lauderdale, I don't even have a sign up outside. There's no sign. I don't want it to be packed. I just want it to be 10 people that come, and it's pretty exclusive. Like, you don't have to worry about waiting on equipment. You're going to be able to film your stuff. And I'm, I have a refrigerator and food there, and I'm like, just take, if you're thirsty, take something. Don't worry, I'll keep it stocked. And I'm not just training them, I'm filming them. And I try to learn. I'll ask him, did I do a good job there? And it's so funny. I'm like, no, not really. I like this, and so I try to learn. But the more value I can provide to them, because I want to be training high level people. And you want to serve as their cameraman too, and you need to see the value of it, because, what would you have done if back in the day you were like, "Louis, can you film this?" Like, he would have thrown your phone out. But it's a different world now. Yeah. These people make their money by filming their workouts. And so I've had to go through the era where I'm like, no phones, your phones go down. This is serious training. Well, if I say that, I'm not going to have any high level, the high level female, the bikini, all they have to do is post their workouts and they crush it. How nice would that be? Yeah. How nice would that be if all you had to do is film your workouts and post them, and people went crazy? It's not like that for you and I, and we're dinosaurs, but...
Well, no, they don't want to see the shit that I'm doing. They don't want to...
Me neither.
No, they don't want to see that at all. Now, your journey, where were you born? Was it Arizona?
Phoenix, yeah.
Phoenix. So what took you to San Diego?
My grandparents both lived in San Diego, and we'd go there every year to visit, and my whole family always wanted to live there. So I remember I was like, I think I just turned 40, and I paid off my house in Phoenix for the first time. That was a goal of mine, to pay off a house before I was 40. Back then, the houses were only a few $100,000. That was nice. But I remember telling my girlfriend at the time, I said, "Oh my God, I was making like $440,000 a year." And I'm like, I think I can afford a place in San Diego. I think I can get a place by the beach, like right by the beach, And I did. And I thought I had made it back then. To me, I had the life. And I was like, don't open a gym, actually learn how to relax, go to the beach every day, read a book. And that lasted 3 months, because I was going around trying to find a gym. And I'm at like, the EOS and all these, every gym was had some huge fleet. They didn't have nice equipment. It was too packed. And I also realized from my own branding, I like showing my workouts, and I don't want someone in the background doing the worst form ever, or just, I'm like, okay, I need my own gym. I just have to have it. So I built a Glute Lab. And then, like I said, I started training my client Masa. Everyone loved her. She was probably the best bikini competitor in San Diego. And so when she started training with me, everyone wanted to. And so my income doubled and then tripled. It doubled the next year, then it tripled the next year. And now I'm like, I was a high school math teacher for 6 years. I'm making 30 grand a year. I'm making so much money, I don't know what to do with it. I still dress, I wear these jorts. I have a Toyota Tacoma that I've driven for 10 straight years. I don't care about cars.
I'm laughing because I did just like fucking 3 hours ago watch the video where you showed that thing and the seats all fucked up in the back or something.
They hate it. So I'm like, okay, what I don't want to start living the good life. I'm going to help my family out. So I paid off the one house by the beach and gave it to my sister. Still pay the property taxes. She's in heaven. Then I bought another house, paid it off, gave it to my mom. And then I paid off. I said, Dad, how much do you owe on the mortgage? He lives on the beach in San Diego, and he moved after I did, but I paid off his mortgage. Then I paid off my Vegas house. That's going to my twin brother if I were to die. But I bought houses for my whole family before I ever paid off my own house, before I ever did anything nice for myself. And I've always spoiled my clients along the way. I stopped charging clients 8 years ago. Haven't charged. If you train with me, you don't pay. And I'll tell you, I'm your coach. I'm here to help. Text me, FaceTime me. Like, I'm single. I'm not married yet. I don't have kids. So I have a lot of time to devote, and I want to help you maximally. So I've always tried to give back. But the more I gave back, the more it helped me. The more I focused on my clients, they're posting about me saying, oh my God, I love my coach. It just gives me social proof. But then during COVID, we all started hanging out together. And it's kind of funny because I was so bored during that first few days during the COVID quarantine. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a social person. So California was crazy. We were under lockdown for like 9 months, like gyms. And so I started hanging out with all of them. They all started coming to my gym. They had nothing else to do. So instead of coming 3 days a week, now they're coming 6 days a week, staying for 3 hours because it's the only time they can get out of their house. So now that's when I came up with StrongLifting. I love powerlifting. I love squats, bench, and deadlifts, but I also love hip thrust, military press, and weighted chin-ups. So I said, I'm going to do a sport with 6 lifts, not 3. And I started having my girls. It's always just been a sport for my clients.
Yeah.
I really think it could become popular because I think it's better for your physique. And if you think training for 3 lifts is hard, try training for 6 lifts. It is tough.
Yeah.
It's like training because the squat and deadlift compete with each other. If you just squatted, you could get stronger at the squat. If you just deadlifted,
well, the overhead is going to compete with the bench to a certain degree too, right?
The overhead and the bench, and then you got hip thrusts in there now. So it's funny because we would mostly, I can talk about the training for that, but the social life I created. So we went to Miami and we had a competition. Then we went to Tulum and Cancun for a week, and we had the greatest time of our lives. And that's what the money has been nice because I can spoil people. Just like when I was a high school math teacher making 30 grand a year, my friend Rob and Scotty, they were making, 200-300 grand each. They're like, Bret, let's go out. And I was in my 30s. Let's go out. Let's go to the W. I can't afford it, guys. We got you. Don't worry, we got you. You make our night funner. If you're around, we have way more fun. So I loved that feeling. I loved that my friends shared the wealth. So when I started doing well, I shared the wealth. And I've done that with my clients for a while now, and I spoil them. When I moved to Vegas, I said, guys, I don't want to be bored. I bought a house with 4 or 5 bedrooms, and whoever wants to visit, I'll pay for the flights. You'll have food covered. I'll pay for your Ubers. Just come visit me whenever you want. So I had I remember I had 54 straight days of visitors once, and then I'm like, this is too much. I like having 3 days off. So visit on the week, like Thursday through Sunday, and then I get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. But anyway, it's created my second family with my clients, and it's been really an interesting lifestyle. But then try to have a girlfriend when you've got all these, I would like to have a girlfriend. I would like to have, but it's really hard when I've got so many beautiful women surrounding me all the time. And I think that leads to a lot of the hate too. It's like, yes, I invented the hip test, but also if you're tall, I think you get more hate.
Yes. And
also my lifestyle surrounded by bikini competitors. If anyone clicks on my story, they're like, wow, who is this? And I try to downplay it. I don't, someone said, you're like the,
I was going to say, who's the guy that upplays that is
Dan Bazarian. So someone said, you're like Dan Bazarian, but a gentleman. You actually care about your clients. So I now I'm in Florida, and but I wanted to move away from San Diego because, like I said, once you start killing, you don't care about taxes when you're a teacher making 30 grand a year in Arizona and it's 6%. And
you get money back.
Yeah, you're paying 1,800, and you care about it when you're making millions. And now the federal taxes are 37% for the highest tax bracket. The state is 13.3, business is 1.5, and that's not to mention property and sales taxes. But I'm paying 52%. And then back then during COVID, they were talking about a wealth tax, 1% per million. And I'm like, at one point, is this like socialism? Like we're just taking all my hard-earned money. And again, I'm not selfish with my money.
That's a fuck ton a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at that, if you break that down.
With the wealth tax they proposed, it was going to be 58%. And then another couple percent with sales and property tax. So it was going to be like basically 60% of my money. It's funny, like, those
are people you could, I mean, this is where I have problems with that. Those are people you could hire. I mean, that's a lot of revenue that has to be, I'm just running numbers.
So if you
like 5 to 7, 8,000 a week.
Well, so here's what I did. I said, if I move to Vegas, it's an hour flight away. Now, I'm not a partier. I used to be. Now I'm boring. But think about if we were back in our heyday, think how fun this would be. I'm like, okay, the 15% extra,
yes.
the 13.3%, 1.5 business. So that extra 15%, let's just say you're making hypothetically $4 million a year. 15% of $4 million, you're looking at $600,000. Well, divide that by 52 weeks. So now you're going, I could literally spend like 12 grand a weekend, like 13 grand a weekend if I wanted to be every weekend. Would you rather live in San Diego, paying these taxes, having the beautiful weather, or Vegas, being able to spend, like, literally, it would be hard to spend that much money.
Yeah.
If you were into cocaine and strip clubs and all that. But I didn't go out. I would stay at home. If my clients visit, I'd take them to STK or something for dinner. But like,
still not 12.
No, it's not. But what I did is I said, look, if I do this for 3 years, if I kind of suffer dealing with the heat, but I lived in Phoenix my whole life, I'm used to the heat. If I do this for 3 years, 600 grand times 3 is 1.8 million. I can buy my twin brother a home. And then if I do it 3 more years, I can keep buying my family members home and take care of every one of them. So I'm creating like generational wealth. And that's what my rationale was. So I wanted to move out of California for the tech. So I moved to Vegas, loved my house. I lived like 20 minutes north of the Strip. It's so peaceful. It's so calm. But I didn't open up a gym there. I thought, I don't like, the people here that I'm training aren't like the people from San Diego. They're kind of like opportunists. But every time I would visit Florida, like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, everyone would recognize me because they care about butts. My friend sent me an image from an Anytime Fitness in Pompano Beach, and they have 6 hip thrust stations and two squat racks, but 6 hip thrust stations set up like benches with preloaded barbells.
Yeah.
Like they.
So you literally found the butt capital of the world.
I did. And people would be like, oh my God, Bret Contreras. Like they recognized me. Yeah. And it felt good. So I thought, I'll open up a gym here, but I'm not liking Fort Lauderdale as much. It's just like you live in London, Ohio. It feels like home to you. I miss that feeling. I keep moving thinking I'll find my place, and it just doesn't.
What do you think
like
that
home.
place feels like?
For me, like, I don't like, Fort Lauderdale traffic lights can be like 4 minutes long.
Oh,
You sit at traffic lights half your life. It's like there's theoretically what's the right amount of time for a light, but every person, you have to honk at them because they're on their phone, because no one can sit there for 4 straight minutes. So everyone gets on their phone and you have to honk. And then then only like 5 people go instead of 10 because that first person wasn't paying attention. It's so maddening. And then you miss another light cycle and it's another 4 minutes because the person up front wasn't paying attention. So it's just things like that. And the humidity, I'm used to heat, but the humidity, you're always wet.
Yeah.
You know, your boxers are wet. It's like, there's certain things, but I wish I could combine, like my gym in Fort Lauderdale is my favorite gym. And I have a house on the water, but I'm not a boat person. I'm not the best person with nature and all that. I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
But I miss my Vegas home the most. My home in Vegas that feels like home to me. That's my favorite house. But then the people in San Diego, all my best friends are from San Diego. They're more real. They're just more, they're not opportunists. They're not just trying to use you. They're real, I won't say I haven't made friends because those took me years to build. But I just think some cities are more known for people just trying to climb. They want to succeed. You think if you lived in Hollywood, everyone's trying to become an actor or model, you know what I mean? So you don't form as genuine of friendships. So I think I don't know what I want to do, but I never know what I want.
Well, the San Diego, I want to take a bathroom break, then come back and talk about the training that you had with those people there. I think that's going to be very hard to replicate because y'all went through something.
The COVID, I know.
That was.
We all talk about it. It was the time of our lives. Like,
yeah.
Yes, it was so tragic. People are dying, but we had the most fun we were at because you weren't so productive, but you weren't you were just trying to make it through another day, especially if you were in California where things were closed down for so long. It was like you weren't worried about making a post on Instagram. You weren't filming your training. You're just trying to survive another day. I remember going like, because at first, remember, it was going to be, we're quarantining for 30 days and then another month. So we were just trying to have fun.
Yeah.
And it was a really special time for all of us.
You guys are selecting Merrick for your telehealth platform needs. They have a couple different ways that they go about doing this. The first is through a self-selected experience. There's a table talk panel, which is the full panel. That would be the panel that I personally get twice a year. That's checking everything. You name it, it's all there. The other panel is a checkup panel with a guided optimization. You're connected with a patient care coordinator, and the patient care coordinator will meet with you to determine what your needs are. Thing to be able to help optimize your health or mitigate without judgment. So the discount code again is Table Talk Merrick Health for all your hormone optimization and performance needs. What I want to jump back to is during lockdowns, you had my brain just died, your squad. And so now instead of having them, whatever their normal time, twice a week, 3 times a week, now they all want to be in there because there's nothing to do all day, every day, which as a strength coach / personal trainer, that creates a very unique situation because now you can do whatever you want to do at scale with almost full compliance. The only limitation I could see nutritionally, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about that. So let's just assume that their nutritional requirements.
I can handle that because
when I
go there in the morning, I go to 7-Eleven. It's 2 doors down from me. Who wants a protein drink? That's 40 extra grams of these, the core power or there's 40 extra grams. So say they were only getting, 80 grams a day. Now they're getting 120. They're closer to 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. So it's like we were crazy back then. We'd have chugging contests and stuff with the.
So it's the protein.
But my niece, Gabby, she was probably only getting like 60 grams a day. I start making her after a workout. You have to drink this. And she'd muscle it down. Now, some girls, the whey protein can affect their skin or their gut. But like, the point is, I made sure I provided them with protein and energy drinks. And because, like I said, I'm killing it. So I'm the most fun guy in the world. Who wants, get me a kombucha? Can you get me a Bang? Can you get me a Celsius? Get me a Core Power. Strawberry, please. Like, and so I'd go to 7-Eleven. You know, I'd spend $80. I'd come back with this, and I'd set them on the reverse hyper, and then everyone's like, yay. And so they're my people. It's so like I said, the trainers would be like, why are you paying for them? But they're my athletes. People pay for sponsorships. I don't sponsor them. Yeah. I just am flattered.
This is interesting to me though, because your Ph.D. right is in exercise science, and then the whole realm of strength and conditioning it's kind of based upon one premise, no matter what you're talking about, except maybe bodybuilding, and that is training economy. Like, don't do anything more than you absolutely have to do. Now you're given a situation and the knowledge of knowing, you know, of kind of where the edges are. Let's just say that they're edges. But now you have the ability to actually push the edges far, because recovery really shouldn't be a problem, because a lot of them probably aren't working. So sleep's not a problem. Nutrition's not a problem. Time's not a problem.
It was the most perfect environment.
It's almost like Bulgarian shit, you know? So now you're given this Bulgarian situation with no drugs. I mean, that's, and all that.
And by the way, I train now, especially I work with people who take stuff. My San Diego squad is all natural. None of them take anything. So it's like, I feel like that's a skill set unto itself. It's like, I think so many trainers, especially bodybuilding world, they only rely on, they don't know how to train people naturally. It's a whole different world, even if you throw, you know, Anavar into the equation. But my girls got so strong naturally, my San Diego squad. But yeah, you're right. It was an ideal. It was a utopia for a trainer.
So what was your? I don't want to say what did you do, because that's too broad. What was the first mesocycle or whatever? So you realize, oh my God, they want to be here all the time.
First, it was okay. Before, when I did classes twice a week, it's me training 20 people at a time. I give them kettlebell deadlifts, you know.
20 people.
I give them squats on the lever squat machine, or heel elevated goblet squats. It's like I'm having them get super strong on the hip thrust. They're doing squats, they're doing deadlifts, they're doing very safe variations of them. I don't want 20 people alternating through the power rack, you know, where I can't spot them. So during COVID, the first thing I did was I started giving them actual squats and deadlifts. It was so much fun, because my roots are as a strength coach, but also just following all you guys. Like I said, I love all, you know, box squats, you name it. I like getting girls strong at squats and deadlifts. I missed it. So that's the first thing it is. I start giving them squats and deadlifts. And then I start training their upper bodies too. So before, I was only training that they would do upper body on their own, and I would just train their lower bodies.
How did the upper body go over with them?
Oh, I was like, God, these, like military press. I'd be like, all right. And then I'd go, let me see how many times you can get the barbell. They'd get 6 reps.
Did they want to do it? I guess.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they were doing it on their own. And it's just like when I started training my client, Tana Eubanks, back in the day. Tana, she was doing all these types of pull downs, but I said, how many chin-ups can you do? She said, I can do 1. I'm like, Tana, you should be able to get 10. So I said, no more pull downs. Let's just do chin-ups 2-3 times a week. But every week I want you getting another rep. And in 10 weeks, she got 10 chin-ups, but she'd take a picture, like especially at the top of the chin-up, she'd take a picture from behind of her back, and she'd be like, look at my back muscles. So yes, we talk about volume. This is something I've never heard anyone talk about. It's kind of like with Nordic ham curls, or maybe like you've seen it with the glute ham developer. If someone can't do one, it's embarrassing. You work so hard, you fight like hell. If you can't do a chin-up, and everyone else can do a chin up, you're working harder. You care more about it. So we can talk about like the resistance profile or like a seated leg curl versus a lying leg curl. But Nordics did more for my girl's hamstring development than anything, because they'd see this girl can lower herself all the way down, and here I fall by the time I get to a 45-degree angle. They're working so hard at them. They're mentally concentrating. Tension is going to be higher because you care so much. If you're trying to build your chin-ups up to 10, you care more compared to doing, theoretically, the pull-downs would be better because you're hitting all the angles and getting more reps in. But Tana's back developed more from stopping all that and focusing on progressive overload on chin-ups. So anyway, that's what I would do. I'd go, let's do chin-ups. And some people couldn't do them. So we'd start from the top and they just lower, do eccentric only chin-ups. Military, I'm like, I want you getting the bar for 20 reps. They'd get 6. I'd be like, that's cool. Each week, let's try to add a rep. And then pretty soon my girls are all really strong. And then I'm like, we should all go on a trip together. It'd be fun. Well, there was this girl, Katie Saunier in Miami, who was really strong at the hip thrust. And I had my client, Carly Petrides, who was freakishly strong at the hip thrust. And at first I was like, I want to see who's stronger at the hip thrust. But Katie doesn't like competing. She's just a fun person. She doesn't care about that. But I said, can we use your gym? And at first I was going to have a hip thrust contest, but then I'm like, wait, I would like my girls to train for powerlifting too. It'd be fun to have them do squats, bench, and deadlifts, but also hip thrust. But I'm like, wait, I've been training them hard with chin-ups and military press. So that's when I said, look, we're going to do strong lifting. It's going to be 6 lifts. And the order, it goes squats first, then bench, then deadlifts, then military press, then chin-ups, then hip thrusts. So it's a long day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, the latest ones take 12 hours because everyone watches every lift. I don't have, 5 different things going on. So yeah, it'll be a 12-hour day, but the girls will remember it the rest of their life because they're all cheering for each other. And I'll have like 35 competitors, but they're all there supporting each other. I only do it once or twice a year. It's so much fun. But training for strong lifting, it's like, okay, when you're doing bench press and shoulder press, you can add in a ton of tricep work, especially if you're trying to hit both twice a week. But girls can recover faster. They can recover from it. Same with squats and deadlifts. You're doing squats and deadlifts. I can't add in a bunch of quad work. I can't add in a lot of extra, stuff for the quads or things that are hard on the low back. So it's like, but the hip thrust is the one lift where you're limited by what you can lock out. Everyone can hip thrust a lot of weight halfway up. But that lockout, so it's like the only accessory work mainly I was doing was extra lockout work for the hip thrust, and then curls and rows for inverted rows and curls for the chin up. Because I don't want to add in a lot of tricep work or quad work or things like that. So it's like we would do basically, we had all different types of programs, but we tried the 6-day week where you do 1 lift a day. Like day 1, you do squats, day 2, bench, day 3, deadlifts, day 4, military press, day 5, chin-ups, day 6, hip thrusts. It's hard training 6 days a week, really hard. It's especially week after week, it catches up to you. So then we did, 2 lower body days, 2 upper body days. We've tried all these different combinations, but it's been really fun seeing what transfers in women. For example, during the quarantine, probably 6 of my girls got stronger at the bench press because they're home doing push-ups all the time. Push-ups don't increase our bench. If we just did body weight push-ups with no extra load. For men, they don't build the bench. For women, they do because it's closer to their, it's a heavier percentage of. So I learned, we've been doing curls our whole lives, but a lot of the girls hadn't been doing any curls. I start giving them curls, their chin up goes up. And it's funny, we started doing a lot of band and chain work too, because now you take from the raw powerlifting world, don't use band and chains, but then borrow from like Louis and what you guys were doing and say, look, I can squat twice a week. If one day is free weight and one day involves bands or chains. I can deadlift twice a week if one day is a heavy deadlift and the other day is like an RDL or a lighter stiff leg. We can hip thrust twice a week, but each day you'll do hip thrust, but then you'll do some lockout work at the end, add bands onto the barbell, or do pause reps. And then with bench, it was like, yeah, you can do like one day close grip bench and then like a dumbbell seated shoulder press. And then the next upper body day, you could do bench press or like military press and then dumbbell bench or something like that. You could do 2 presses twice a week. They can recover from that. But I don't add in a lot more tricep stuff and all that. But then on those same days, they do chin-ups, but I try to vary it. Like, you know, one day might be body weight chin-ups for max reps, but then I get girls who, you know, can get to where they can almost get 20 chin-ups. It's like, is that going to transfer their 1 rep max? Because we're doing weighted chin-ups. But it was really cool because there's been 2 girls who have hit a 12 times body weight total, meaning add up the 6 lifts, your 1 rep max, and with chin-up, you add your body weight to it. Mm-hmm. So if you do 100-pound, well, my top ladies are doing, Carly got a 785-pound hip thrust. But it's really hard to judge the hip thrust because most people you should see doing like, oh, I did an 800-pound hip thrust. They don't lock out. Mm-hmm. When you lock out, you know it. You get full. You can tell. You can feel that pop. You see it, that pop. It's really rare. And she's one of like 2 or 3 people I've seen hip thrust that much weight. That was in Tulum. It was such an awesome environment. But so the top hip thrust was ever is I think 785 with Carly, you know, in our competitions. Squatting, you know, these are all natural women that I think I've had some girls hit like 335. Deadlifts 405. It's funny because I got about 5 girls close to that, but they always somehow get injured before the competition. So we've had to learn to taper off and not, you know, it gets hard to periodize appropriately and peak for it properly. Military press, the top military is like 135, but to get a 100-pound strict military press is hard for, you know, like a woman that weighs 120. You know, it's a feat. That's a good goal to work for, a 100-pound military press strict. The chin-up, top chin-ups are about 70 extra pounds. I've got 2 girls who have done that, I think 70 or 75 pounds. And you have to start from a dead hang. You have to touch your chest to the bar. It's not just getting your chin over the bar. And so it was just a cool, you know, the average hip thrust strength amongst I think my top 22 girls was 550 pounds. We specialize in the hip thrust, and that's why my squad is known for having big glutes, you know, but we do all the lifts. That's why when people bash me, do you know we do squats and deadlifts? They act like all I do is hip thrusts and bands. And it's frustrating because I think I've got the strongest all natural female gym in the world, and we would gladly be tested anytime. And it's a really cool group of girls. But then it's interesting because now in Fort Lauderdale, working with different clientele, it's like it's just, I love learning. I'm always learning. I'm always maximizing my knowledge. But I trained natural people for so long. You have to, it's so important so you don't just rely on drugs. I think so many people, they don't care about progressive overload. They don't care about that. They rely on drugs to build the muscle. And then all the women have these side effects over time. Their voices change, and it's like, it's unnecessary. You could have trained them without it. You could have gotten them there without it. And not for bodybuilding or wellness, but for bikini, certainly. And so it's just kind of frustrating seeing what some of these girls have been thrown into by coaches that just don't have the background that I do. They're not strength coaches. They're not.
Well, the girls don't know either.
They don't know either, right?
So it's now with those 6 main lifts, they're being periodized the whole time. So it's hard because when I'm there, I try to say, for example, the first time we did it, it's like, let's try to pick one, the first lift we do, we're going to try and PR on. And it could be any PR.
So I guess you would call it like the repetition method with West Side, but like we're trying to get, it could be a 1 rep max. So just think of the different loads.
Yeah,
For deadlifts, it could be max reps with 275, 315, 335, or a new 1 rep max. And I'd give them autonomy because they kind of know. You kind of know, like, I feel good today. I want to go for a new 1 rep max, or I'm a little beat up. And I'd watch their warm-ups, and I got really good at knowing their speed with how 135 and 185 looks when they're squatting. If it's fast and crisp, then they're strong that day. If it's grindy, then we might still go for a PR, but it'll be like a rep PR with 155, and they've hit 14, we're going for 15, but I'd keep track of all their PRs. Now that works great if it's a 6-week prep, 8-week prep, but if you're doing 12 weeks, 16 weeks, you can't be PRing every single week. It'd be on all the lifts. So I've learned to then, okay, we're going to do percentages of 1 rep maxes. But then the girls will always, they're just hardcore. It's so like you've talked about this, straying from the program because we're all so hardcore. They want to take, especially their last set will be an AMRAP set. They don't want to put the bar down if it felt easy. They want to go to failure. If I say do 85% of 1 rep max for, 3 sets of 3, some lifts, that might work well for squats, bends, and deadlifts, but like for hip thrusts, it doesn't always work out right. Same with military bits. And then with chin-ups, what do you mean 85%? Did you add your body weight into the total or not? And so it became challenging, but I really did figure out a good system. And then I also wanted to talk about my system for Booty by Bret because I've never heard anyone periodize this way. Maybe you have. What I did with Booty by Bret is I've always liked the hip thrust, but I want them to have variety. And I didn't know which exercise is best. Is it the squat? Is it the hip thrust? Is it the deadlift? I always thought hip thrust would be best. But we're always doing hip thrusts. We're always doing squats. We're always doing, I like to say there's 4 main glute movement patterns. It's like you got your thrust and bridge movements. You've got your squat and lunge movements, like single leg or double leg squats. You've got your hinging movements, like the RDLs and back extensions, and then you've got your abduction. And abduction can be frontal plane or horizontal plane. You can be bent over or straight up. So you're always including those movement patterns, but you prioritize. And the reason I started thinking this way is, all right, Dave, if I said you, during your peak, you got to set a squat PR in 6 weeks. Well, you would probably mainly squat and you'd be like, I'm going to kind of put deadlifts on the back burner.
Yeah.
If I said, Dave, what's the most chin-ups you've ever done? And you said, I've done 14 reps. All right. I need you to get 20 reps in 6 weeks. Maybe you could have done it, but you would have had to start doing chin-ups like 3 times a week. And maybe you change the grips. Maybe you do 1 day body, 1 day loaded, but like you do that first. You do chin-ups first in the workout. And I kind of realized that it's really hard for me, being 46 years old, I can still PR here and there, but I really have to prioritize that lift. For example, chin-ups, I could do it. I just have to start doing chin-ups first 3 times a week and hope I don't injure myself. So, So like I start thinking about the research I've seen on maintenance. Maintaining strength is easy. You can cut volume way down. So I started experimenting with the girls. Like I would have them do a single leg month, but they do 1 set of squats at the end. And I'd see if they lost squat strength. Then I start doing no squats, just pure single leg stuff. And I know the powerlifting world won't, because with powerlifting, it's so specific and the squat is but I'm talking about like general population. If general population hits Bulgarian split squats hard as hell and lunges and step ups, you don't lose your squat strength that much. You might lose a little bit, you recover it within a few weeks. So what I started doing was I started saying, look, we're going to periodize according to lifts. So month 1 was a well-rounded month. That's everyone's favorite because you can do all your lifts equally. So like I said, in StrongLifting, my favorite 6 lifts, I do that with Booty by Bret. So month 1 would be a well-rounded program. So day 1 would be like, say, squats and bench. Then we do like 7 lifts. and I throw an abduction for glutes because it's a booty program, but I want them to get the strongest version possible of themselves. So like 3 full body days. So say Monday would be squats and bench and then a bunch of other lifts. Wednesday would be hip thrusts and chin ups. And then Friday would be deadlifts and military press, and then other lifts too. But you're giving equal focus on all 6 of those lifts, kind of, you know? Then you just had a great month of training. Now it's time to specialize. Month 2, focus is on squats and bench. So like I said, if you're focused on squats, you're probably going to do squats twice a week. And that 3rd day, you're going to start with, it might be a single leg squatting movement, which guys like us might not be able to recover from that. But the women can. They can do like a back squat on Monday, a deficit Smith machine reverse lunge on Wednesday, and a pause back squat on Friday, and they can recover. And then you're still doing you'll do hip thrust towards the end of the program for higher reps. And I'd have people say, I saw my best glute results on that month. So now, after the month of squatting, what do you think is going to be sore on you? Your knees, maybe your hips, you know? It's a perfect time now for a hip thrust month. Now we focus on hip thrusts and chin-ups, okay? Because you just did bench press, maybe your shoulders are a little, the girls don't get as beat up with upper body training as guys do. Then you just did a hip thrust month. Now everything's feeling good again. Now you have a deadlift month, deadlift and military press month. So you focus on that. You're still squatting, you're still hip thrusting, but it's on the back burner. You put more your emphasis, you perform. So with the deadlift month, though, you can't do deadlifts 3 times a week. But what you can do is have a hard deadlift day, a stiff leg deadlift day, and then a day where you do like barbell 45-degree hypers or dumbbell, like heavy 45-degree hypers and more hamstring work, you know? So then you're beat up. After the deadlift month, your low back's going to be beat up. You're going to feel fatigued overall. So then you have a single leg and dumbbell month. Now, you'd think for a powerlifter hearing this, you'd be like, I'm going to lose all my strength during that month. But you've talked about it. I read every article you ever wrote back in the day about unloading some of the times. And it could be belt squats too. But it's like, yes, that month I've tracked it. They do not lose strength, but it's working out the imbalances. It's preventing. That month is critical. And it's also brutal because like one set is actually like a set of lunges. You have to do 2 sets. It sucks. I hate single leg training. But yeah, they do single leg work and dumbbells. Sometimes I throw bilateral lifts in there, but the emphasis, so the first couple lifts of the day are, you know, basically like a lunge, a step up, or a split squat, and then, you know, dumbbell pressing and stuff like that, more dumbbell, or just unique lifts that we aren't doing, like maybe I throw more push-ups in there or something, but like it's less like overall, it's less stress, it's more joint-friendly lifts, and then back around again. So what I will tell you about this program, yes, it's a booty program, and it's like back then, you know, it was like, well, squats probably and lunges probably build the lower glutes more, hip thrusts more the upper glutes, and then the abduction work hits the glute medius. So it's a very good way to work to build glutes, but you get very strong. You don't get injured with this program too much because in powerlifting, you're always trying to build your squat, bench, deadlift, always focusing on all 3 lifts at a time. Very rarely do you put a lift on the back burner. So I just thought it was an intelligent way to periodize, and I've never heard anyone. We grew up reading about periodization. It was like, whatever, you know, volume starts high, intensity is low, and then they go like, but they never talked about exercise rotation, in my opinion.
No,
well, you did with the conjugate method, you rotated.
Kind of, but not like that.
Not like that, not the focus.
What this reminds me of is I did several clinics with Mel Siff at his house. So I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with him. And when he was teaching me, you know, the intricacies of periodization, how blocks should be focused on certain motor abilities like strength, power, peak, explosiveness. And some motor abilities were able to be maintained for longer periods of time. So if dynamic strength for one athlete, and there's very individual variability, can be maintained for 4 weeks, then you can take a block and not even have it in there. Or if in some other cases, maybe you have a transitional block, or just a movement, plyometrics every couple of weeks, just to maintain anything to maintain that motor ability, because that's not necessary during that time. And that's looking at the big motor abilities, where as a power lifter through Westside and Conjugate, it's like, what we're trying to build is a squat, bench, deadlift, they're top of the pie. Then we're concerned with, okay, we can't train those all the time because we're going to get burned out and all this other stuff. So what has the greatest dynamic correspondence to the squat, bench, and deadlift? They become max effort work, dynamic work, and it flows down to train from there. So when I would consult with a football coach or some other sport, the first things I would ask would be, what movements or what motor abilities do you think from your own experience have the highest dynamic correspondence to the field? Is it a squat? Is it a clean? Is it, I don't care if it's a 10-yard sprint. I don't give a fuck what it is. You've been coaching for 20 years. What is it? And then they would give me 5 things, and it fucked me up, because 3 things I can manage. As a power lifter, you can manage how you're going to move those 3 things, if through Conjugate, or if it's just, more bumpa oriented type of block, I can figure out how to manage 3 things, right? 5 was like, fuck. Now what you just presented though is 6 things. And what you're kind of doing, if I'm understanding correctly, is you are using movements, but the movements are represent certain motor abilities, right? Is backing off of that and then stacking them in such a way that they don't have to be trained all the time, which to me is going to yield a higher outcome over a period of time, right? Because you can push it harder when you do push it, right? Because when it's being pushed all the time, say that with that first phase, and I think maybe this might have been what you were doing when you first started doing it and had 6 hours and could force feed protein down these people. You can hit that meso, or whatever you want to call that, first month repetitively for several months. And then what I'm going to guess is maybe they had a show or something that put a different variable that had to change the load in some regard. And then, so I guess what I'm saying is, I'm intrigued, right? Because now my brain's like turning around with like with these coaches. Now so with what you're doing, I completely understand what you're talking about. My brain keeps going, because I think where a lot of strength and conditioning coaches fuck up is they try to make every exercise the specificity exercise, or they try to just become too focused on this motor ability, and then they have nothing to use progressive overload to try to drive to get stronger on, right? So then they end up in this whirlwind of a 4-year time period that they have an athlete that I don't think they get as optimally as strong as they could be. Right now, you throw in seasons and shit like that, and it becomes a little bit different. Where,
especially with this focus on specificity now, all anyone ever does is their competition lifting the exact same manner, and I think career longevity has gone down, and I think that's also because of the trend and all the.
Well, you'll appreciate this, where when I'll have conversations with some people and they speak about specificity, I like to say, I like to ask them back, especially of a competition lift, like specificity of what? Like, how do you define the competition lift? Let's agree on what this is what part of some of the problems that I think happen with a lot of coaches today. They don't agree on definitions first. So they just throw competition lift out. Cool. Because then I'll say, to me, the competition lift is, you have to take it out of the rack, walk it back, wait for a command to say squat, squat down, come back up, walk it back in, and that's a comp lift. So if you do a double, you're already one standard.
Yeah, exactly.
You're one standard deviation away from a competition lift.
It's that exact manner you put. Yeah, that's pure specificity.
And that's just on movement.
Yeah.
We're not talking the other stuff. Right.
Yep.
So then the conversation will become, how comfortable and how many standard deviations are you okay with saying that this is specific? Because you've already agreed that this one standard deviation of doing a double or a triple, so how much room are we allowed to play here? And then it changes, right? Because all they're really doing is trying to find a way to make their stuff sound better than other people's stuff.
And if they really believed in specificity pure, then you would just once a week, you'd do a mock meet.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because the bench would always follow the squat.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where when I hear specificity, there's like so many horns that go off and my, sirens and all this shit that go off, because there's movement specificity, then there's going to be contraction specificity.
I think, how the pendulums always swing. I think Alan Costner was the first guy who really coined that. Like, it goes here, and then Westside got so popular, then it just started getting criticized. And it sucks, because I remember, I think Dan Green wrote that classic article, like Louis would say things like the quads don't matter in a squat, or the pecs don't matter in a bench press, and clearly they do. He took things too far, but that was Louis. But Dan basically said, I did box squats, I got better at box squats, and then was murdered by people with these giant quads. And same with like bench, I realize I'm not going to just do, I don't know if he said close grip or what, but basically I feel like then everyone started going the opposite direction. And also, raw powerlifting got way more popular. But now you have all these coaches who never learned that when someone can't sit back in a squat, they're so upright, you need to give that person vertical shin box squats and good mornings, and their squat will grow from that, because you're not a versatile squatter. You have to be, so you're all quad. You're all quad. And the second you lean forward a little bit, you dump the weight, because you don't have that, I guess, that leaning torso strength, the hip strength, the low back, whatever it's called. But you prescribe those people vertical shin box squats to parallel and good mornings for 6 weeks, and then their squat goes up, Same with people that are leaning so much that good morning all their squats. Well, you give them safety bar squats, make them stay upright, don't let them shoot their hips up. So you have to, like, I'm obsessed with having this large toolbox. What happens remember when DUP became popular? Like, was it 10 years ago? Everyone's now squatting 3 days a week. Low bar squatting 3 days a week. And all their arms are that arm, they called it the arm pain of death at the gym. I was that pain right in here from low barring all the time. And I'm like, I remember telling this guy, I was like, do high bar squats, do front squats. And he's like, no, that's not specific though. And I'm like, but it's ruining your bench press. If your arms are killing from low bar squats, and then you go to bench press and the bar hurts like hell, then you're not going to go up on your bench. So they would have never done belt squats. They were never focused on safeties. It's like, that's what you're missing out on, so much variation that can help you. It's like we went from being all about variety to then pure specificity, whatever that means.
It goes back and forth. And it's, as a scientist, this way better than I do, is things can work or not work for a multitude of different reasons. So using the bands as an example is, I've seen, studies that said that bands were great, and I've seen a lot of other ones. They say, well, it doesn't mimic the strength curve, right? And okay, let's just assume that's true. It doesn't mimic the strength curve, thus bands don't work. And I've had this conversation with a few people and say, well, that's interesting, because I didn't just use the bands when I was at Westside with maximal loads. I used it with Gen Pop moms who didn't know how to squat, because I couldn't teach them how to brace and stay tight when they took a bar out of the rack to squat with a broomstick. But I could put a mini band on there, and if they didn't stay tight, they figured out real quick how to stay tight. And then if they went to squat back up and they didn't have some intent, then they knew they needed more intent. So two things that are really hard to teach beginners and even young athletes are intent, compensatory acceleration, and tightness that just taught me. And normally the reaction is, fuck, never thought of that. Well, because maybe you are right. Maybe it doesn't work because of the strength curve, but maybe it's working because of these mechanisms or different mechanisms. We don't know. We just know that when people present it, when it first is done, they're saying, well, it's going to work because da, 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 5 different things.
Well, I mean, I fail at the squat towards the top. You see Ray Williams, he'll fail right at the top. Yeah. If he, I doubt he ever has done chain squats.
Yeah. Well, that was the funny thing that was, because this still makes me laugh when I see this, is the bands and chains, they only work for geared powerlifters because the gear helps them get off of the chest, right? And because of the strength curve. And I've been around gear powerlifting my entire life because that's really all that ever existed.
Yep.
Where they miss the bench is the bottom, but not for the same reasons. It's because they can't touch or they fall out of the groove.
Yeah.
But trust me, they're missing at the bottom way more than they are the top. So, and the squat, they usually miss out of the bottom because they're not sitting in the right position as they eccentrically go down. So either something eccentrically is going wrong or technically on the way down, because what normally will happen is they'll fall over or they don't hit depth. So they can't go low enough. Either way, they're missing the lift at the bottom. So their own argument doesn't hold weight.
But if I'm not saying just do chain squats. What I'm saying is, do 1 day of regular squats, 1 day of chain squats, or, but also what happens when your clients start getting hip pain? Because FAI is real. Like a lot of the girls start getting hip pain. So that's when I say, all right, let's just do heavy chain loaded squats. So at the bottom, it's now it's only 185 at the bottom, but the top is 285. And it doesn't hurt their hips. And so now you get to, so I had, like Carly I was talking about, she did just chain squats for like 6 to 8 weeks and set a PR on her squat, her first raw squat, her first free weight squat. After that chain cycle, she hit 335 on her squat. And she built it by doing chain squats because she was squatting hard, pain-free. And so people don't have enough skill set, like how to, it's funny, remember back in the day hearing like physical therapists be like, if someone's in pain, you refer out. We're always in pain. If you're a personal trainer, you have clients in various stages of injury all the time. We have to be not mini physical therapists. We have to learn how to train around minor injuries and pain in our field. It just comes with being a personal trainer, especially the older you get. I don't have a week that goes by where something doesn't hurt.
Everything hurts.
But I can train around it.
Yeah, you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
As you stated, and I want to circle back on that because it's true, is they're all tools in the toolbox. And if I see any tool that's underutilized today, more so than probably in the past, it is just basic progressive overload.
Yeah. Even
if it's on the assistant type of work, they need some kind of progressiveness there. The mind muscle connection and the pump, that matters. That's low end training. Like to me, that's bottom end training. Like you got the main work, the main strength stuff, and then the lower stuff. You're cycling a little bit different, the way that you're putting it through there, but kind of probably still following the same thing.
But I've always focused on progressive overload. But the problem is that requires a whole book. Because, all right, when you teach someone about like Milo, like
well, yeah, no,
yeah. Okay, that makes so much sense. But in the real world, it's so much more complicated than that because you can't just add a rep a week. You can't just add 5 pounds a week. If you could get one more rep a month on chin-ups, you'd be getting 12 more reps a year. It won't happen. 5 more pounds a month is 60 pounds a year.
Mm-hmm.
You won't do that on all your lifts. So it's more about recent PRs, like who cares what you did 10 years ago? What are your recent PRs with strict form? And let's pick variations like what Westside did. And let's try to beat them for a few weeks. Then let's switch to something else. Let's beat them for a month. And then, but it's not too far away from these variations aren't so far away that it doesn't build. So you're always building your squats because we're always doing squat variations.
Yes.
And we're doing single leg squatting work, and we're always doing, the same movement patterns, but hopefully every 6 months you're a little bit stronger than you were before.
Well, you just demonstrated with the way that you're cycling your booty by Bret, you can cycle in a movement that's not that movement. Then that's progressively going, because you can't progressively overload. I mean, we'd all be, God, imagine how strong I'd fucking be. I started at 12.
Yeah.
Oh my, I'd be benching. There's not
1,000,
bars big
yeah.
enough. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But one thing you said is critical is you got to be realistic about where you currently are. Right. Especially as you get older, it sucks, but I can't, like RPE becomes weird, RIR becomes weird, fucking percentages are not even part of the mixture. It's just like what's doable, then how long for my main lifts, like how long can I progress? And then this is one of the questions I got from my Discord server as well. Sometimes if I put a movement in that I want to progress on for 3 weeks, sometimes I got to add like 3 weeks before that of almost a regression. I'll just do it at a slower tempo. I find some way to make it harder instead of just the classic sets and reps, just because I know I need more than 3 weeks out of it. Where the question that was asked was if we're dealing with a glute bridge or a lot of the glute movements that you're talking about, but probably more so with the glute bridge, what are the regressions? Because it's easy for people to see the progressions,
right?
But where do you regress?
Well, you start. Everyone can do a bodyweight glute bridge.
Yeah, you would hope.
Everyone can do a bodyweight hip thrust. So yeah, you start with bodyweight, and lately I've been going back to bodyweight. And if I concentrate super hard on squeezing the top as high as you can go, and I just do little pulses, and I do that for 10 reps, squeezing a full hip extension. Try it off a bench and just really drive your hips as high as you can. Chances are you're missing those last 2 inches, and you go up all the way and just squeeze for a second, and then come down. Do a set of 10 with just body weight. You will feel your glutes from that. You will feel them a lot. So it's like, it always starts with body weight. A lot of my beginners, I would say, they start with like 65 pounds. They're athletic women, but maybe they've never done a hip thrust before. I might have them do 65 pounds for like sets of 12 to 15. It doesn't matter though, because I'm going to be giving them hip thrusts, as if they come to me twice a week or 3 times a week, they're always going to be doing hip thrusts. And it might start off with body weight or barbell, but yeah, I'm very interested in getting them to 135 so that they can have they can roll the bar over them. Once you can roll the bar over, it's so much nicer than having to be handed a bar or sit down with it. So once they can do 135, but now we have the glute drive machines that are making things so much easier. Now is the rise of the machines. It's like setting up a barbell hip thrust in a gym sucks. No one wants to do it. I would do it after when I used to train at commercial gyms, I'd do it after I deadlifted, so the plates were already there. But it sucks. So that's why these machines are so nice. But the machines, they make too big. They fit men, not women.
Well, that's the problem with, I'm kind of in that. You got to fit people that are 5'5" to 6'5". I mean, there's a spectrum.
It's funny you said that, because I say
hard,
for my BC strength, it's 5 foot. 5 foot to 6'4".
Yeah.
Because women,
you can't. I mean,
you can. 5 foot to 6 foot, it can be done. It's just hard, but no one tests out the 5-footers. So you have all these women who want to, and they're on these glute drive machines, and their knee angle is obtuse, and they're feeling in their hamstrings, and all you have to do is move that foot plate back this way. So anyway, like with the glute drive machines now, it becomes a lot easier, because you could start off the like on the hammer strength, the starting weight is 45 pounds. You get them using that, then you throw a 25 on each side, etc. But for regressions, like not everyone could do a single leg hip thrust right away. So you might do B stance, or you might do 2 legs up, 1 leg down. But very quickly, if you're pushing hip thrust hard, within a few months, most people can be using 225. It's just like, it's the environment though. Glute Lab is for hip thrusts what West Side was for for squats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like an Olympic lifting center has all these squat platforms and squat stands, platforms. You're going to be doing Olympic lifts and squats if you're at an Olympic training center. If you're at a powerlifting gym, you're doing squats and deadlifts. If you're at Glute Lab, we have 20 glute benches, and then we have got 2 hip thrusters and then some machines. So we've probably got 16 different hip thrust stations. You're looking around and you're seeing these girls with huge glutes doing 315 for 20 reps with good lockouts. You're not impressed with your 185 for 6, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's that community, it's that environment. You're watching everyone, you're going, oh, so you push harder. You push harder, and within a few months, all my girls are using 225 for reps. And my ultimate goal is to I always tell them, even if they're small, I want you getting 315 for 20. Not everyone gets there, but it's a good goal to hit. It's hard.
Yeah. When you were working on your Ph.D., and then after, when you were in your deepest phase of research, because now I know you fund research as well. Yep. So when you're in your deepest phase of research, what were some of the things that you were hoping to find, and then some of the things that were more disappointments?
It's just training studies. Like, they're so hard and so few. So it's like, cool, we can do stuff on force plates and EMG and dynamometers, and we can analyze mechanisms to death, but you really need training studies, and they're so hard to carry out. They're so time consuming. So that's where I just wish we could just be funding training studies left and right, because those figure out what actually happens. I geek out on the mechanisms, but right, does EMG predict hypertrophy? Our last study shows not really, because it doesn't take into account the stretch, the passive forces. So it looks at active forces, but not passive. So it's like, it could be valuable. We need a caveat there. And it's like all the functional anatomy. So you can look at things and go, well, muscle should do this, but does it? Does what we think predict when looking at the muscle, the skeletal system, the musculoskeletal system, does the nervous system behave exactly how we would think? So you need more training studies. That's the main thing. And it'd be cool if every exercise had so many training studies behind it. We could have review papers saying, here's the 30 studies conducted on this. Here's what we know so far. But at the end of the day, do any of the squat studies apply to what Louis did? What you do here? Do the hip thrust studies apply? Because I'm better at teaching the hip thrust than the researchers are, and you're better at teaching. So that's what I wish people understood. Like, anecdotes matter. If you have a world-class system, a world-class coach, you're going to do things a little differently, and the system works, but it revolves around the coach.
Yeah. Well, I think that.
Real quick, Dave, I got two minutes. Uber's coming to get me.
Okay, cool.
I think I'm going to miss my flight.
All right. So how would you sum up, your let's go with the periodization thing, because that was one of the biggest things. How would you elevator pitch the periodization model that you use with the body by Bret? Because that was the most intriguing thing for me today.
I would say prioritize lifts. And put the lift on the back burner, because guess what? Look at the Smolov and Shiko and stuff. Like, sometimes when you prioritize the squat, some people's deadlift goes up, especially if you're doing grip work and stuff to keep your grip strength. So don't always think you have to have, you can put a lift on a back burner and maintain strength very easily, but to build strength, it requires focus and specialization. So sometimes, instead of trying to focus on all 3 lifts, hell, you got all year to train. Take 2 months where you just try to focus on your squat, and then switch to the deadlift for a while, and keep the squat on the back burner, instead of trying to always build all 3 lifts and all the accessories too. It's like, pick some accessories that transfer to your deadlift, and prioritize those over the squat, and then watch your deadlift climb. Throughout the year, maybe you gain more strength doing it that way than trying to hit all 3 of them equally all the time.
It's a good thing. And Bret, I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you've done for the industry.
Yes.
I appreciate you coming out, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And Dave, I just want to say you helped my training big time. So you've helped me as a coach, and you've helped so many people like me through being so generous with your articles and your teaching. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here.
All right. Thank you, guys. We're done.
Anything between 4-week-long mesocycle and an 8-week-long mesocycle, and that includes 1 week baked into each at the end for deloading, seems to be generally a good idea for muscle growth.
Nutrition is probably more important for the hypertrophy if I'm looking at the strength athlete, because if they go through that phase that they're supposed to go through that they don't go through, but then when they do go through, they don't go through it effectively, they should be eating enough to actually fuel and feed and grow the muscle.